Chapter 660. The ancients often said, "Bring glory to the family." For the people of Wuxia, the door had a rich and colorful meaning. The door represented dignity, power, and the face of a man and a family. No matter in any dynasty or era, no matter if it was a powerful person or a commoner in the countryside, tearing down the door was a taboo. It was not much different from digging up someone's ancestral grave. Of course, it was a little exaggerated. But if someone dared to go to someone's house and tear down the door, it was easy to irritate them and cause a fierce conflict. In the end, the problem could be solved by force. Except for the city management. Since he understood the heart of Tai Chi, Fang Yan's sixth sense was especially sharp. He was very sensitive to everything around him. Fang Yan suddenly felt uneasy. Subconsciously, he sensed that this feeling had something to do with Yi Ro. Yi Ro was cultivating in seclusion at this time. As far as he knew, Yi Ro suddenly went into seclusion this time mainly because she felt that the opportunity was approaching and the opportunity to break through was right in front of her. Yi Ro had been practicing martial arts since she was a child. She had entered the Dao-seeking stage when she was still a minor. She shocked the entire inner Jianghu and was called the first master of the younger generation in the inner Jianghu. It should be known that there were many elites in the inner Jianghu, and there were countless outstanding young people. Not to mention the young talents like Fang Yan, Bai Xiu and Bailey Lu and Swallow Dock, the disciples of some famous masters outside were also very outstanding. Not to mention those in the 72 sects in the south who practiced fist techniques, several young people in the 11 sects in the north who practiced leg techniques also entered the public sight. Their achievements were praised by the older generation. Fang Yan had understood the heart of Tai Chi when he was 20 years old. He was the most outstanding successor of Fang family Tai Chi in the past 100 years, except for the old drunkard. He was the proudest successor of Tai Chi, except for the old drunkard. However, even a genius like Fang Yan was firmly suppressed by Yi Ro, which showed how powerful and domineering Yi Ro was. 3 years ago, Yi Ro broke through again and became the second youngest master to enter the Dao-seeking stage in the inner Jianghu. The first young guy was called Xiong Feihu. He entered the Dao-seeking stage at the age of 21, which was an achievement that many people could not achieve in their lifetime. Therefore, he was nicknamed Monster. Until now, he was still a legend in the inner river. It's just that he was born in the northern border, grew up in the northern border, and learned some sinister and vicious martial arts. His character was eccentric and he almost never interacted with people. Fang Yan had only heard of his name and had never seen him in person. Fang Yan just wanted to see Yi Ro. He just wanted to make sure that his girlfriend was safe. In all honesty, Yi Ro had promised to be his girlfriend. They had walked hand in hand on the path outside the village countless times. He even wanted to kiss Yi Ro when she was not paying attention. It turned out that Yi Ro had never been unguarded against him. Every time Fang Yan's mouth approached her, she would always be able to slap Fang Yan away in time or kick Fang Yan to the ground. Sometimes, Fang Yan would think that Yi Ro agreed to be his girlfriend because she could hit him easily. No other man could give her such a strong sense of accomplishment. Later, he tried very hard to throw such thoughts out of his mind, because he felt that it was disrespectful to him. How could I accidentally tear down someone's door? Fang Yan also had a headache. It seemed that things were getting more and more complicated and difficult to deal with. Fang Yan looked at Yi Daoling and said, "I didn't tear it down." "If you didn't tear it down, then did I tear it down?" Yi Daoling sneered. "Third uncle, you did." Fang Yan said with a serious face. This kind of thing couldn't be admitted even if he died. At this time he couldn't be shameless. "I saw it with my own eyes. This door was hit by your chi and then collapsed." "Third uncle, you have to touch your conscience when you speak," Fang Yan said solemnly. "I just want to see your gentle side, but third uncle insisted that I compete with you. I was forced to accept your extremely unreasonable condition. The door was indeed knocked down by my chi, but think about it seriously, third uncle, was my chi aimed at you at that time? My Tai Chi storm's target was third uncle and the target was also third uncle. When the Tai Chi storm surrounded third uncle used the white tiger swallows the moon that you had been accumulating for a long time inside the storm. Third uncle is good at martial arts and forcibly tore a hole in my Tai Chi storm. However, because you used too much force in the Tai Chi storm, it caused the Tai Chi storm to explode, the domain disappeared, and the Chi leaked out. This caused the Yi family's door to be destroyed. I know third uncle didn't do it on purpose. You just wanted to change the old house's door, right?" Yes. "That's right," Yi Fengxing echoed on the side. "I said it before, Yi family should change to a more imposing door." "Shut up." Yi Daoling glared at Yi Fengxing and shouted angrily. He knew that Yi Fengxing and Fang Yan had a very good relationship. This kid still dared to help an outsider in front of him. It really made him angry. Yi Fengxing was extremely afraid of Yi Daoling. After being scolded, he gave Fang Yan a look, indicating that he should quickly slip away and not take this kind of trouble on himself. If the Yi family was serious about the matter of tearing down the door, even if it was brought to Sir, the Yi family would still be in the right. At that time, not only would Fang Yan have to bow his head and apologize, but grandfather Fang would also have to come and apologize. At that time, where would the Fang family's face be? Fang Yan understood his best friend's intentions, but he had no intention of leaving. Just as he said before seeing Yi Ro before confirming her safety, he would not leave the Yi family no matter what. He believed in his own premonition and judgment. Yi Daoling looked at Fang Yan and said, "According to what you said, I was the one who tore down the door?" Fang Yan nodded and said, "You were the one who tore down the door. Since I tore it down, then I won't ask you to compensate." Fang Yan looked at Yi Daoling with a face full of astonishment. He thought, what does this uncle mean? Just now, he looked like he was going to denounce me, but he was convinced with a few words? It was not the first time that Fang Yan dealt with Yi Daoling. He knew that Yi Daoling was a man with great wisdom. How could such a person be easily convinced? Yi Daowen also looked at Yi Daoling with a puzzled expression, his face revealing a thoughtful expression. Yi Daoling ignored Fang Yan's scrutinizing gaze and said in a deep voice, "You still don't want to exchange a few punches with me?" Fang Yan shook his head and said, "I don't want to." Because, Yi Daoling licked the blood stains at the corner of his mouth and said, "You feel that I am no longer qualified to be your opponent." Fang Yan had a hesitant expression and didn't directly answer his question. "You can speak frankly," Yi Daoling said. "I'm not a narrow-minded person. I'm worried about hurting third uncle. You are a gentle third uncle and also my third uncle. In the future we will still be a family. I don't want to hurt the relationship between uncle and nephew before we reach that step," Fang Yan said with a sincere expression, as if he was completely thinking for Yi Daoling's sake. Yi Daoling pointed at Fang Yan and yelled at the Yi Dao disciples, "Beat him up." The Yi Dao disciples heard Yi Daoling's order and each took out their weapons, preparing to attack Fang Yan. "Bastard," an old voice resounded. With the help of a servant girl, the ancestor of the Yi family tiptoed over to this side. Yi Daoling quickly ran over to greet him and scolded, "Ancestor, why did you come out in the middle of the night? What if you get cold from the wind? Can I not come out?" The ancestor pointed at Yi Daowen, then at Yi Daoling and said, "You're already so old, yet you're still arguing with a child, aren't you ashamed?" Yi Daoling had an innocent expression and said, "Ancestor, I was just standing here watching the show but I didn't say a word. Watching the show is also your fault." The ancestor said rudely, "The Fang family's boy is worried about Wenwan's safety and came to visit out of goodwill. Is this how you treat your guests? Is this how we Yi family's men treat our guests?" Yi Daoling knew that the ancestor was difficult to deal with, but he still braced himself and said, "Ancestor, Fang Yan doesn't have any good intentions. Letting him visit Wenwan is like a weasel paying a visit to a chicken. Pa, you're the weasel paying a visit to a chicken? I feel that the Fang family's boy is kind." The ancestor looked at Fang Yan and asked, "Fang Yan, are you sure Wenwan is in trouble?" "Yes," Fang Yan answered firmly and said, "I just have this bad hunch. I hope Wenwan is fine, but I'm worried that if something happens, I might be able to help by her side." "Okay, come with me, I'll take you to see Wenwan," the ancestor said. "Ancestor, this mustn't be done," Yi Daowen and Yi Daoling shouted at the same time. "Why mustn't be done?" the ancestor said with an unhappy expression. Yi Daowen and Yi Daoling looked at each other. Yi Daoling gave a look, meaning to say that I've said what I should say and you're the big brother. At this time you should stand up and take some responsibility. Yi Daowen cleared his throat, walked in front of the ancestor and said in a low voice, "Ancestor, this mustn't be done. Wenwan is at the critical moment of her breakthrough. I don't think it's appropriate to be disturbed by outsiders at this time. In addition, Wenwan's retreat is in the stone room. The stone room is in a hidden location in the Yi family's ancestral temple. The Yi family's rules clearly state that only descendants of the Yi family can enter the Yi family's ancestral temple without permission." Yi Daowen looked back at Fang Yan and said, "Fang Yan, he's not a member of the Yi family, he's not qualified to enter the Yi family's ancestral temple." Chapter 661. Those who were not men of the Yi family could not enter the Yi family's ancestral hall. Not only did the Yi family have such a rule, but other families in Swallow Dock also had it. The Fang family also had it. If an outsider wanted to enter the Fang family's ancestral hall, the Fang family would definitely be extremely unwilling. Some strict families even had the rule that women could not enter the ancestral hall because in their view, women would eventually marry into other families. This rule was too disrespectful to women. Back then, the Thousand Leaves division died in battle in Swallow Dock. Not to mention placing the memorial tablet in the Fang family's ancestral hall, it was impossible to even find a cemetery in Swallow Dock. Fortunately, the old drunkard Mo Qingdi took the initiative to offer his cemetery, and the many heroes of Swallow Dock maintained respect for the actions of the Thousand Leaves division, so he was buried peacefully. The stone room used by the Yi family for seclusion was in the basement under the Yi family's ancestral hall. He had already heard this information from his friend Yi Fengxing. Yi Daowen didn't lie to him on this point. Fang Yin understood the difficulties of Yi Daowen and Yi Daoling. Because if this happened in his family, grandfather would also be in a difficult position, right? It was also because of this reason that Fang Yin spent so much time with Yi Daoling at the door. If he didn't waste so much time, he would have rushed in and hugged Yi Ro in his arms, or rather Yi Ro hugged him in her arms. He just wanted to influence or conquer Yi Daoling so that he would agree to let him see Yi Ro. Without the permission of the Yi family, he wouldn't dare to break into the ancestral hall. Otherwise, the entire Swallow Dock wouldn't let this rude and unreasonable person go. Fang Yin would become the public enemy of Swallow Dock. When the old ancestor heard Yi Daowen's words, he also hesitated for a while. He raised his eyes and glanced at Fang Yin, then looked at Yi Daowen and asked, "Is there no other way?" "No." Yi Daowen shook his head. He paused and said, "Unless Fang Yin is willing to marry into our Yi family and become a disciple of our Yi family." Fang Yan's heart suddenly tightened. "Father-in-law, don't play with your son-in-law like this, okay? Although I like your daughter very much, aren't you afraid of destroying our father-in-law and son-in-law relationship by making such a request to me? I am a very narrow-minded man." Yi Daoling chuckled and said, "If Fang Yin is willing to marry into our Yi family, there will naturally be no problem with this matter. I will even no longer oppose him, and when Ro dash." The main reason why the Yi family did not agree to Fang Yin and Yi Ro being together was because they did not want the martial artist with the greatest potential and future in their family to become someone else's. It had been hundreds of years, and the Yi family only had the chance to produce a martial artist who was in the Tao of Heaven, but he was going to be tricked by that bastard from the Fang family or some other bastard from another family. Who the hell could tolerate something like this? How many people in the Tao of Heaven were there in the world? This was not cutting flesh, this was digging out the heart. The Yi family needed an elite in the Tao of Heaven, and they needed Yi Wenru to protect the Yi family. In that case, the status of the Yi family would rise again. Those who knew the truth would look at the Yi family in a new light. Even the elders behind the Red Wall would look at the Yi family in a new light. After all, the country or they themselves also needed the help of an elite in the Tao of Heaven to deal with some troublesome matters. And in Neijiang, having an elite in the Tao of Heaven was equivalent to having a gold medal. Who would dare to provoke a family with an elite in the Tao of Heaven? When Mo Lightly Enemy was promoted to the Tao of Heaven, how glorious was the Fang family? How could the Fang family hold their heads up high? Mo Lightly Enemy waited at home for a year, but no one came to challenge him. He had just been promoted to the Tao of Heaven. This was like a woman who had just bought a dress, or a man who had just bought a luxury watch. No one came to ask him to go shopping or play cards. How could he have the chance to show off his new love in front of others? Therefore, Mo Qingdi conquered the world alone with his sword, killing in all directions. It was also during that period that Mo Qingdi killed his way overseas and fought against the 36 islands of the East Ocean. He won every battle he fought. It was only when he encountered the Thousand Leaves army that he wasted some time. If Fang Yin and Yi Ro got married, Yi Ro would naturally marry into the Fang family. In that case, would Yi Ro belong to the Fang family or the Yi family? If she belonged to the Fang family, then the Yi family's expectations would naturally be disappointed. The Yi family's strength would be greatly reduced. The Yi family's meticulous nurturing and care. People outside could fight fiercely for a house or a car. These families could do anything for an elite in the Tao of Heaven. Think about it, Yi Ro, who had broken through the obstacles and entered the Tao of Heaven, could become another Mo Lightly Enemy. She could become a black dragon, a divine dragon, an existence even more terrifying than them. Such a talent, even countries were fighting over him, not to mention small families like theirs. Yi Daoling was a politician. Politicians cared about gains and losses the most. In his heart, Fang Yin was also a first-class talent. It could even be said that he was the most outstanding young man he had ever seen. If he was a member of the Yi family, Yi Daoling would wake up laughing even in his dreams. However, he was a member of the Fang family. He could even steal Yi Ro from the Yi family. This couldn't be. Absolutely not. However, if he could marry into the Yi family, not only would the Yi family not lose Yi Rou, they would also have Fang Yan. Yi Daoling would probably dream every night, and every time he dreamed he would wake up laughing. Hearing Yi Daoling's suggestion, the Yi family's children were all full of joy. Some of them were on good terms with Fang Yan, some were not on good terms with Fang Yan. However, no matter if they liked Fang Yan or hated Fang Yan, they had to admit Fang Yan's value. He was the #1 male maniac in Swallow Fort. Even Bai Xiu was killed by him. Even Yi Fengxing, the simple-minded fellow, couldn't help but grin. He thought to himself, my brother is indeed not an ordinary person. In order to win Fang Yan over, first uncle and third uncle both agreed to his marriage with my sister. However, after thinking about it, he felt that something was wrong. If Fang Yan married into the Yi family, then what about the Fang family? The Fang family was not as big and prosperous as the Yi family. Their Fang family only had one son, Fang Yan. If Fang Yan became a member of the Yi family, then the Fang family would be cut off. Not good. This is not good. Yi Fengxing shook his head and sighed in his heart. The old ancestor looked at Fang Yan and said, Fang Yan, what do you say? Are you going to enter the ancestral hall or not? Do you want to see Rou Rou or not? Fang Yan bowed to the old ancestor and said apologetically, Fang Yan blames himself for disturbing the old ancestor's rest in the middle of the night. When the sun rises, I will kowtow to the old ancestor to apologize. Thank the old ancestor for speaking up for me. Thank the old ancestor for protecting and loving me. Fang Yan looked at Yi Daowen and Yi Daoling and said, I understand first uncle and third uncle's difficulties. Only direct descendants can enter the ancestral hall. The Yi clan has such a rule, our Fang clan also has such a rule, and the other clans of Swallow Dock also have such a rule. I, Fang Yan, am a person with no authority. I cannot allow others to remove these rules for my sake. Big Brother said that as long as you are willing to marry into the Yi family, I am willing to personally lead you into the ancestral hall and let you see Rou Rou. Yi Daoling did not forget to persuade Fang Yan and said with a smile, Thank you uncle and thank you third uncle. Thank you for giving me such a good suggestion. But I cannot agree. Fang Yan said with a firm expression. My grandfather had 2 brothers. He also had an older brother, but he died young, leaving only one daughter to marry abroad. She had no contact with the Fang family for many years. My father was the only son in my grandfather's family, and all 3 of my aunts were married. 3 years ago, my father was killed by Bai Xiu at the entrance of Swallow Dock. The old drunkard in my heart has always been my uncle and my father's brother. He went to the land of extreme cold. I don't know if he can come back. I am the only one left in the Fang family. I cannot marry into the Yi family. I need to stay at home to take care of the elderly. I need to stay at home to inherit the bloodline. I need to carry forward the essence of Fang's Tai Chi. I need people to mention the Fang family and not say that there is no man in the family. I am the face of the Fang family. I am a flag raised by the Fang family. I have too many responsibilities on my shoulders and they're too heavy. So, I cannot marry into the Yi family. Hearing what Fang Yan said, everyone was not surprised at all. If Fang Yan agreed, it could only prove 2 points. First, there was something wrong with Fang Yan's head. Second, there was something wrong with Fang Yan's character. He abandoned his father and mother and was willing to marry into the Fang family for a woman. Was such a man worthy of trust and entrustment? Hearing Fang Yan's words, Yi Daoling felt it was reasonable. He felt some pity in his heart. He sighed and said, Fang Yan, you have your reasons not to marry into the Fang family. We also have our reasons not to let you in. We understand you and you have to understand us. So let's drop this matter. We don't need you to pay for the door. It's getting late. Even the ancestor got up to stay up with you. Go back quickly. Let our Yi family return to peace. I can't go back. Fang Yan said stubbornly, I still want to enter the Yi family's ancestral hall. I also want to see Yi Gentle. I feel that she is in danger. If I leave at this time, the ancestor sighed softly and said, Little Yanzi, I know you are infatuated with Gentle. But this matter is really difficult to deal with. How about, ancestor, this time, let me use my own method to solve the problem. Fang Yan bowed to the ancestor again and said with a smile after getting up. His smile was very faint but also very warm. It made people feel happy. What method do you have? The ancestor asked curiously. Fang Yan looked at the many Yi family men present and said, You have the rules to not let me in. I also have my reasons to go in. So if I force my way in, you can't stop me. Fang Yan, don't you dare. Yi Daoling was furious. Is this kid crazy? Fang Yan's figure had already disappeared on the spot. rushing towards where Yi Daoling was standing. Chapter 662. Fang Yin was a scholar, and scholars liked to reason with people. Convincing people with reason or clothes. Fighting and killing were what barbarians did. Of course, this was under the condition that he could reason with them. If he couldn't reason with them, then he could only choose to use his fists. Fang Yin really despised himself at this time. He felt like a barbarian. His body swooped down and charged in Yi Daoling's direction. Why did he choose Yi Daoling? Because Yi Daoling was completely unprepared, and in the process of fighting just now, he had roughly figured out Yi Daoling's martial arts. Most importantly, Yi Daoling had an inner demon towards him. This was human nature. When people faced people who were stronger than them or had beaten them, they would always feel a little unconfident. Because he had already lost, he still subconsciously felt that he was inferior to others. Yi Daoling was indeed unprepared. Not only was he unprepared, but Yi Daowen and the other Yi family juniors were also unprepared. None of them thought that Fang Yin would dare to make such an irrational choice in front of more than half of the Yi family's men. Breaking into the Yi family's gate at night, entering the Yi family's ancestral hall, and challenging more than 20 men of the Yi family by himself, did he not want to live? You're going too far. Hearing Fang Yan's words, Yi Daowen's expression was extremely ugly. Yi Daowen really didn't like this arrogant and despotic guy at all. What should a young man be like? Humble, low-key, polite, and gentle. Just like a piece of high-quality unpolished jade, it looked simple on the outside, but once the outer skin was cut open, one would find that the inside was overflowing with color. In comparison, Yi Daowen liked Bai Xiu more. Even though Bai Xiu had already been killed by Fang Yin was a diamond. It looked like it was shining with golden light, but most of the time diamonds could hurt people. Yi Daowen had heard some things about Fang Yin and Yi Rou, and knew that this pair of youngsters had been very close recently. He didn't know what magic Fang Yin used, but it actually made his daughter, who had always hated him, change her attitude towards him. Of course, that was just a rumor. As a father, he didn't want to meddle too much in the affairs of the young. Yi Rou was very young and so was Fang Yin. If Fang Yin wanted to marry Yi Daowen's daughter, then he would have to obtain the consent of the Yi clan. However, Fang Yin broke into the Yi family at night for Yi Rou, which made him, as her father, feel all kinds of emotions. Fang Yin. The young men of the Yi family were so angry that their faces turned green. What do you mean by, you can't stop me? Do you think the Yi clan is dead? Fang Yin, you arrogant guy. Yi Zi clenched her fists, her face flushed with anger. Because of her sister Yi Wenru, she also loved Fang Yin. However, she was a member of the Yi family after all. After hearing Fang Yan's words, how could she not be angry? Big brother, you can't do this. Yi Fengxing was so shocked that his eyeballs were about to fall out. Was this kid crazy? Even if your strength is not bad, even if the Yi family really can't stop you, don't say it on the spot, right? Don't hit people in the face, understand? Fang Yin, you barbarian. Before Yi Daoling could say a word of insult, Fang Yin had already punched towards his face. Yi Daoling swallowed the words that were about to come out of his mouth. He filled his palm and punched towards Fang Yan's fist. If it was a head-on fight, the Yi family's fierce tiger fist wouldn't be afraid of anyone. They were afraid of those who played Tai Chi. They talked about using softness to overcome hardness. They paid attention to what was fake and what was real. You punched for a long time, but you couldn't even touch the corner of the other person's clothes. When the other person took the opportunity to hit you, it was quite painful, and the injuries were all important internal organs. Yi Daoling thought that Fang Yin didn't dare to fight head-on with him. He thought that Fang Yan's punch was a bluff to attract his attention. When he punched out in defense, Fang Yin would change his move. The smile on Fang Yan's face became wider. He opened his mouth slightly as if he was saying something. Because Fang Yan's speed was too fast and there was the sound of wind in his ears, Yi Daoling couldn't understand what he was saying. Can't get up. Yi Daoling heard the word, can't get up. What can't get up? Is he mocking me for not being able to get up? Yi Daoling's eyes broke through and his hair stood on end. Fang Yin didn't retract his fist, nor did he change his move. He was really throwing a punch at his own fist. Is he going to fight head-on with me? Yi Daoling's fist was burning in pain. Yi Daoling felt a powerful force pressing towards his fist. It was a serious blow to his self-esteem. The Yi family's fierce tiger fist was famous for being hard and fierce. If it was a hard fight, who would be afraid of who? Yi Daoling sank his energy into his dantian and quickly gathered all the strength in his body into his fist. More strength. More strength. He even used all of his strength to drink milk. Yi Daoling's fist became smaller and smaller, and finally turned into a fiery red ball, like a ripe tomato. White tiger swallows the moon. This was the strongest and fiercest punch of the ferocious tiger fist. It gathered all the energy in one's body into one fist, and with a single strike, it could destroy the heavens and earth. Of course, the creator of the ferocious tiger fist was just bragging. But the power was extremely strong. The Tai Chi storm created by Fang Yen with the help of the Tai Chi heart was punched open by his fist. This showed how extraordinary it was. Fang Yen did have the idea of fighting head-on. Although Tai Chi was about using softness to overcome hardness, there was also a type of Tai Chi that used hardness to overcome hardness. This was the so-called hard Tai Chi. This was the case in any field. When your strength reached the peak, everything would be under your control. Whether it was soft or hard, soft before hard, hard before soft, it all depended on a single thought. Drunken crane riding the wind. Fang Yan's body swayed left and right. It looked like he was going from one point to another. From point A to point B, there were no afterimages in the middle and there were no illusions. This did not mean that drunken crane riding the wind was inferior to other footwork. On the contrary, drunken crane riding the wind was the most brilliant footwork Fang Yan had ever seen. Extreme speed did not leave a shadow because the shadow would disappear before it could appear. In the eyes of outsiders, Fang Yan's body swayed and he had already jumped in front of Yi Daoling. Fang Yan punched out. Their fists collided at a speed that was hard to see with the naked eye. Fang Yan's fist was white, the size and shape were completely normal. Yi Daoling's fist was red, like a ripe tomato or a lit red candle. Bang! Their fists collided. Their bodies did not move at all. Because of the powerful strength chi attached to the fist, when the strength chi was released, it naturally produced a strong suction force, causing their bodies to not only not be repelled, but instead be attracted to each other and stick to each other in a loving manner. However, this suction force was extremely short. It might only be a few tenths of a second or even shorter. A majestic and powerless force was released from their fists. Their bodies were suddenly pushed out by the force. Boom! The energy exploded. Fang Yan's body flew out and Yi Daoling's body also flew out. The energy contained in Yi Daoling's fist dissipated and his fist returned to its original state. Fang Yan finished releasing the energy in his fist and his body flew in the air. At this moment, something strange happened again. Yi Daoling's fist that had just returned to its original state turned fiery red again. In that instant he actually gathered a huge amount of power again. White tiger swallows the moon again. Yi Daoling actually hid his strength. He had cultivated for many years and the power contained in his body could guarantee that he could use white tiger swallows the moon twice in a row. His body paused in the air and then like a cannonball, he once again blasted towards Fang Yan's head. Crack crack crack. The energy around the fist surged. The fiery energy burned the air it touched in the process, making crackling sounds. Fang Yan felt danger. Yi Daoling's white tiger swallows the moon was used again, which was what we often called second drive. Of course, this move was more advanced than second drive. Because second drive was used when the first force was reserved and the body's remaining strength was used again. The main purpose was to use it when fighting with others. The person who used this move was very powerful, vicious and shameless. White tiger swallows the moon was used again after the first all-out attack. It was similar to exploding the small universe and burning the instinct of life. Oh. The heart of Tai Chi felt danger and quickly spun again. Once the Taiji domain was unleashed, everything in the world would become its subordinates. Fang Yan's body danced and spun in the air. His right hand clenched into a fist and collided with Yi Daoling's white tiger swallows the moon again. Whoosh! The punch was silent, no different from a mortal. You've been tricked. Yi Daoling's body was like a white tiger pouncing towards Fang Yan like a thunderbolt. Bah! Their fists collided again. Yi Daoling felt something was wrong the moment they made contact. Something was very wrong. His white tiger swallows the moon was a technique that used his body's strength to use the second force. This was his secret. It was an ultimate move that he rarely showed to the outside world. Other than a few people in the Yi family, no one else knew that he was this powerful. Hiding. As a wise politician, one must understand the principle of not using all one's strength and leaving one's strength to spare. Unlike those young people who showed all their strength and revealed all their trump cards to others. It was very dangerous. Young people must know how to hide. Fang Yan had just finished exchanging blows with him, so he should be in a state of emptiness, where he had used up all his strength and had yet to generate new strength. Why was he still able to give him so much pressure? Bang! Fang Yan's body stopped in midair, while Yi Daoling's body flew towards the ground like a ball that was knocked out. Clang! Yi Daoling's body fell heavily to the ground. The bluestone plate shattered into several pieces. Yi Daoling vomited blood. He looked at the night sky unwillingly and asked with grief and indignation, "How is this possible?" Chapter 663. Fang Yin was a low-key man. He would never take the initiative to show off to others. For example, did he tell others that he had a beautiful girlfriend like Yi Wenro? He only took her to every corner of Swallow Dock that could be seen with the naked eye. What was helpless was that his kung fu was too amazing. Every breakthrough was earth-shattering. The 7 stars aligned and the sun and moon shone. The commotion was too big. Fang Yin couldn't hide it even if he wanted to. The light of Tai Chi opened up the Ren and Du meridians and all the shackles of the human body, allowing one's Qi to circulate endlessly in the body. His body was a closed circulatory system. After the old power was used up, new power would be produced. After the old Qi was used up, new Qi would be produced. For Fang Yin there was never a time when he could use his Qi completely. Not to mention that Yi Daoling could only use White Tiger swallowing the moon. Even if he could use White Tiger swallowing the moon, or White Tiger swallowing the moon, it would be meaningless to him. For a normal person, the gap period between the old and new power didn't exist at all. He could exchange punches with Yi Daoling, and in the end, the strong would defeat the weak. Yi Daoling knew that Fang Yin had broken through again and knew that he had used the light of Tai Chi. However, what kind of miraculous kung fu was the light of Tai Chi, and what kind of state would appear after comprehending it? It was unfamiliar to Yi Daoling and even to Fang Yin. This was because Fang Yin was walking on a completely different path compared to his predecessors. Yi Daoling was unwilling, but the rest of the Yi family were very discouraged. Among the 3 tigers of the Yi family, Yi Daoshen's kung fu was ranked first, Yi Daowen was ranked second, and Yi Daoling could only be ranked last. Being ranked last didn't mean that his kung fu wasn't brilliant. Because he was a politician, he used to be in charge of an office under the state minister, and he helped the state minister make suggestions for national policies. 3 years ago, Fang Yin forced Mr. Gong and forcefully helped Yi Daoling snatch an important position from the general family. He was now an important figure in the financial field of Wuxia, and could even affect the country's economy. In such a position, the workload every day was extremely heavy. It was indeed an extremely difficult task for him to achieve such achievements in martial arts while doing his job well. Yi Daoling was unwilling. He didn't understand why he would lose to that bastard. How did he use his strength twice in such a short period of time? Moreover, a fellow who learned Tai Chi actually used a head-on to beat him, an elder who had trained in the fierce tiger fist of the Yi for decades. Didn't he have any shame? Didn't he have any professional ethics? Fang Yan's attack was successful. Before his body landed on the ground, he was already dashing towards the inner courtyard. Yi Tiger, he Yi, the disciples of the Yi clan were furious and wanted to chase after them. The Yen said. All said the Taoist. Although his voice was not loud, it was clearly heard by every disciple of the Yi family. Yi to he to Tian. Yen, king to say he ti he fu to say he is, fu, was you. He yen to he yen, was how he, this kid dared to break into our Yi family's ancestral hall. He is sincere to one. How many good men can a woman meet in her life? If you meet one, then marry him. Old ancestor. The old ancestor waved his hand and said, I'm old and won't live for more than a few years. I don't even know if I can make it through this winter. Your dad doesn't care about the family now. He has handed over nearly 100 members of the Yi family to you. You brothers have your own ideas and your own plans. I won't get involved in these things. Little Yanzi broke in himself. You can beat or scold him, it's up to you. But one thing, don't hurt my one. The Taoist glanced at Yi Daoling, who was lying on the ground, and snorted. You practice for so many years but you can't even beat a brat. Aren't you ashamed? Yi Daoling closed his eyes and pretended not to hear what the Taoist was saying. Yi, come back to sleep with me, the Taoist said. Yezi agreed and helped the old ancestor walk toward her room in the backyard. After the ancestor left, all the Yi family disciples in the courtyard looked towards Yi Daowen, waiting for his order, to chase after him or retreat. Yi Daowen waved his hand and said, be in charge of wind sound. Everyone guard your posts. As for Wen Nua, I don't think that kid would dare to act recklessly. Yi Fengxing smiled and agreed. He clapped his hands and shouted, disperse, disperse, everyone disperse. The disciples of the Yi clan were dissatisfied but they could only disperse. Yi Daowen walked to Yi Daoling's side and squatted down. He looked at the blood at the corner of his mouth and asked, are you all right? I'm fine. Yi Daoling panted lightly. This kid has improved again. It seemed like the Tai Chi light had transformed his bodily functions and unlocked the layers of shackles in his body. There were countless meridians and acupoints in the human body. If one was blocked, then hundreds would be blocked. If one was blocked, then hundreds would be unblocked. He was completely unobstructed. I could feel that he had used his full strength when he had punched me. If it was a normal person, it would be impossible for him to gather his aura again so quickly. This battle, it was not unjust that he lost. Yi Daowen sighed and said, "He is a talent. He is simply a genius." Yi Daoling said. "He might be the second Mo Qingdi." Yi Daowen's expression was grave as he said, "You think so highly of him?" "I think his achievements might be above Mo Qingdi," Yi Daoling said. "A person with talent isn't scary, and knowing how to work hard isn't scary. The scariest thing is that even the heavens are looking after him. Think about it, how many times has he broken through in these years? How many opportunities has he encountered? As the old saying goes, where there is a will, there is a will. However, as the old saying goes, everything is predestined. This child is a person with good fortune." "It's a pity?" Yi Daowen said. "Yes, it's a pity. Fang Yan is not a disciple of my Yi clan. The Fang clan has a Fang Yan, the Yi clan must have a Yi Wen Nua," Yi Daowen said firmly. Yi Daoling smiled bitterly and said, "The ancestor seems to like that kid a lot." The ancestor said that he will no longer participate in these matters. Yi Daowen said, "We have to think about the future of the Yi clan. Then I can only wrong Nua Nua." Yi Wen Nua's condition was getting worse and worse. It was difficult for her to see, difficult for her ears to hear, and difficult for her brain to think. In her brain, countless scenes of Fang Yan flashed. Fang Yan who had turned into a white crane, Fang Yan who had turned into a young deer, Fang Yan who had turned into a malicious spirit, Fang Yan who had a knife on his neck. They flashed quickly in front of you so you couldn't see anything clearly. They kept talking in your ears so you could only hear noises. He was a curse in your mind, a nightmare in the depths of your soul. Choice. He had to make a choice. Either he broke the neck of the white crane, or he sucked the hot blood of the young deer, or he cut off the head of the enemy. He had to make a decision. Otherwise he would be punished by the laws of the heavens. With one sword strike, everything would be cleansed. She would no longer have to endure this endless pain and worry. She would pry into the heavens and become the youngest person to conquer the heavens, and she would be a woman. Yi Ro, these three words were likely to be recorded in the annals of history. She could flash her name in the long river of history like countless martial arts sages, and be admired and worshipped by future generations. She could challenge the divine dragon, or she could challenge the black dragon. She could defeat them and replace them. However, in that case she would have to give up on Fang Yan. She had to cut off her emotions, cut off her roots, and become an immortal without emotions and distracting thoughts. The heavens was supreme, so it made people feel that it was unreachable. It was precisely because of this characteristic that if she wanted to conquer the heavens, she could only wholeheartedly serve the Tao. The divine dragon wholeheartedly served the Tao, the black dragon wholeheartedly served the Tao, and Mo Qingdi wholeheartedly served the Tao back then. If it wasn't for a woman messing up his Tao heart, perhaps he wouldn't have lost so miserably in the battle against the divine dragon. Yi Ro also had to wholeheartedly serve the Tao and let go of all her emotions and desires. Yi Ro couldn't bear to. How could she give up? They had just started. She had just experienced the beauty of being in love, the shyness of blushing, and the pleasure of her heart racing. She had just become Fang Yan's girlfriend, and they hadn't even kissed seriously. She could give up on Fang Yan and choose the heavens. Or she could give up on the heavens and choose Fang Yan. Whether it was feelings or the heavens, each could only be one. This was indeed a difficult choice. Yi Ro's clothes were completely soaked, as if she had just been scooped out of the water. Her body rolled on the stone bed, and her expression was twisted, as if she was about to be torn apart by the two opposing emotions. This was the consequence of the backlash from the heavens. The critical point of breaking through meant that one of her feet had already stepped on the threshold of the heavens. Half of her body was inside the door and the other half was outside. At this time she could either barge in and become a master of the heavens. Or she could be kicked out and be severely injured, or even unable to step on the path of martial arts for the rest of her life. In the process of climbing the heavens, there were countless examples of failure. Some people were lucky, and after failing they would only lose a lot of energy which could be recovered after a few days of repair. Some people were unlucky, and after failing they became lunatics or idiots. Among them there were some powerful people with outstanding talents. Because it was too painful to endure, the physical pain and mental torture kept urging people to make a decision. I can't. Yi Ro gritted her teeth and said. She couldn't cut off the love and she didn't want to give up on Fang Yan. However, if she didn't make a choice, such a tearing would drive her crazy, and the sound that had almost become an invisible electric current would burn her brain. Bang! Yi Ro's body rolled down from the stone bed, and fell on the floor that was also paved with stone. I can't kill? Yi Ro's voice was intermittent, and she even lost the strength to speak. I can't kill? Clang! The stone door was pushed open from the outside and a figure with white hair rushed in. Chapter 664. One step forward is heaven, one step back is hell. These were the two different results of climbing the heavenly axiom and the different feelings brought about by the different results. Some people would feel that it was strange. Since it was so difficult to climb the heavenly Tao, why didn't one just give up when it was difficult to make a decision? If it didn't work this time, he would climb it next time. If it didn't work next time, he would try again the next time. This time, I'm asking you to sever your emotions. Next time, I might just ask you to cut off your hair and cut off your hemorrhoids. At least it's much easier to accept than becoming a stone person with a heart of ice in a jade pot, right? If it was really that easy, then why would countless people sigh about how difficult the heavens Tao was? He could climb whenever he wanted. Why would there be the critical point of breakthrough that people often talked about? When are you going to break through? Whether or not there was a chance to break through was a kind of intuition, a kind of epiphany. There were people who cultivated arduously their entire lives and suddenly had an epiphany on their deathbed. They would sit on a wall in fear and climb to the heavenly Tao realm overnight. There were also young children who unknowingly entered the heavenly Tao realm. Of course, that sort of situation was extremely rare and it was a special case. Martial artists like Yi Ro who had already begun to climb the heavenly way at such a young age were also very rare. Most of them began to take this step in their prime at the age of 34. This was because the martial artists of that period were sufficiently knowledgeable and had accumulated sufficiently. Whether it was their mental state or physical strength, they were at their peak. All the basic conditions were prepared to the best, and when the opportunity came, he would take the next step steadily. Only then would his chances of success be higher. If he failed, then not only would he not be able to enter the realm of the heavens Tao, he would even be injured by the heavens Tao. That would truly be a huge loss. This was also the reason why the Yi family attached so much importance to Yi Ro's breakthrough. No one wanted to bear the loss of failure. Even if Yi Ro didn't ascend to heaven now, she was still a Tao-seeking realm expert. With her talent, it was only a matter of time before she entered the heavenly Tao realm. However, if he failed in his ascent, not only would the Yi family lose a heavenly Tao realm expert, but they would also lose a Tao-querying realm expert. It was easy to find Tao-querying realm experts, but it was difficult to find such a young and outstanding Tao-querying realm expert. I can't kill you. I can't kill you. Yi Ro's body rolled on the stone floor. She held her head desperately with both hands, wishing she could pull her head off her neck. She could not kill Fang Yan. She could not bear to cut off her love for him. With one slash he would forget all his emotions for life. Otherwise, the backlash from the heavenly Tao would be even more intense. It was too painful. He felt as if his head was about to explode. Countless images spun in his mind, countless voices screamed in his ears, and a tidal wave of information rushed into his brain. She was about to go crazy. Yi Ro's body began to sweat profusely, and a large amount of sweat oozed out. When the water in the body was completely discharged, it began to emit smoke. The smoke first dried up her clothes, then her body, turning her whole body red. She looked like a shrimp. When Fang Yan pushed open the stone door and barged in, he saw white smoke billowing in the room. The entire stone room was shrouded in smoke. Yi Ro! Fang Yan called out. The stone room was not big and the thick smoke could not block his sharp eyes. Hearing the sound of rolling on the floor, he rushed over and picked Yi Ro up. Yi Ro? When Fang Yan's hand touched Yi Ro's body, he felt a burning sensation. It was like hugging a small sun. How hot was it? Even so, Fang Yan was still reluctant to put Yi Ro's body back on the floor. Yi Ro? Fang Yan called out Yi Ro's name loudly. Yi Ro, wake up. What's wrong with you? Her head was muddled, and she had gradually lost her sense of self. She just kept shouting words like, I can't kill you, over and over again to strengthen her belief, because she was worried that she would lose control of her actions after falling into chaos. Her eyes became darker and her head became heavier and heavier. She felt she was about to die, because her neck was choked by the malicious ghost that Fang Yan transformed into. Her throat was dry and burning and she could hardly breathe. In her hazy consciousness she heard Fang Yan's voice. Fang Yan. Yi Ro called out. Her voice was hoarse and blood oozed out of her mouth when she spoke. Her mouth was full of blood, which flowed out from the corners of her mouth, which was a ghastly sight. Yi Ro. Yi Ro, you'll be fine. Fang Yin hugged Yi Ro tightly, wanting her to feel his strength and to know that he was with her. One of Fang Yan's palms pressed on Yi Ro's back, trying to transfer his true qi into her body and gather their strength to overcome this difficulty together. However, just as the vital energy in his palm was released and touched her body, it was violently pushed back by a strong and unparalleled force. After squeezing out Fang Yan's strength, it didn't stop there. It even wanted to attack the insides of Fang Yan's body through his palm. It was like a blood-sucking bug that wanted to occupy Fang Yan's body. Now Yi Ro was like a living mountain in its active phase. Her body was full of raging waves and raging flames. Her body formed a self-cycle and formed an independent little universe. If no external force intervened, it would continue to stay in this state. The temperature would get higher and higher, and the waves would get bigger and bigger. It might also gradually extinguish and die. If external force intervened, it would become violent and restless. It would become a ferocious monster, baring its teeth and roaring, devouring all the enemies who tried to offend it. Fang Yan's palms were bounced off and he felt a burning pain in his palms. "Yi Ro!" Fang Yan exclaimed. He didn't dare to try again because if he was careless, the force he transferred into Yi Ro's body might cause a volcanic eruption. What would Yi Ro be like after the volcanic eruption? Fang Yan didn't dare to imagine. Yi Ro's body lay weakly in Fang Yan's arms. Because of the bleeding in her mouth, it was difficult for her to even speak. She could only hold Fang Yan tightly and put her burning purplish-red arms around Fang Yan's waist. "Even if I die," Yi Ro thought, "at least I won't have any regrets." Thinking of this, the pain on Yi Ro's face eased a lot, and her struggling and twisting body calmed down a lot. "Yi Ro, you'll be fine. I won't let anything happen to you," Fang Yan said in a sorrowful and indignant voice with determination in his eyes. "Nothing can trouble me. Just hold on for a while and give me some time." Yes, Fang Yan needed time. He couldn't use Tai Chi to calm the riot in her internal organs, and ordinary medical skills and medicines couldn't bring down her fever. It was too late to spend a lot of money to hire that greedy doctor. What should I do? What should I do? Spring on a withered tree. An idea flashed across Fang Yan's mind. Suddenly he thought of the unique Taoist skill, spring on a withered tree, that the old Taoist had performed in front of him. Even a withered tree could be rejuvenated, so it shouldn't be difficult for Yi Ro, who had fallen into a demon, to return to her normal state. However, the old Taoist was on Xianxia Mountain, or in other places. That old guy was elusive and didn't like to use high-tech communication tools. Even if he could find him, it would be several days later. With Yi Ro's current physical condition, even if she was much stronger than ordinary people, she wouldn't be able to hold on for more than 2 hours. What could Fang Yan do in 2 hours? He wanted to use spring on a withered tree to cure Yi Ro, to calm her inner fire, and to expel the demon in her heart. But he didn't know how to do it. He only comprehended the first stage, withered tree, but how did he achieve the second stage, spring on a withered tree? How could she regain her vitality after losing her life? Fang Yan blamed himself in his heart. If he had worked harder, if he hadn't been bothered by so many things, if he had focused on practicing martial arts, if he had stayed by the old Taoist side to observe and learn more, maybe he would have comprehended the essence of spring on a withered tree. In that case he would have been able to save Yi Ro. Why didn't I do that? Fang Yan wanted to slap himself dozens of times. Yi Ro's body was getting hotter and hotter, and the black exercise clothes she was wearing began to wrinkle and crack due to the loss of moisture. Even so, her hands were still holding Fang Yan's waist tightly. She didn't show any signs of letting go. Her breathing was getting weaker and weaker. Fang Yan put his hand on Yi Ro's chest, but he couldn't feel her heartbeat. "Yi Ro!" Fang Yan roared hoarsely. Watching the woman he loved the most die in his arms without being able to do anything, this was harder to accept than 1,000 arrows piercing through his heart. "Fang Yan, you idiot, don't pull my braid. Fang Yan, you bastard, how dare you pick my plum blossom. Fang Yan, get up. Don't lie on the ground and pretend to be dead. Fang Huohua, I'm going to kill you. Fang Yan." Fang Yan's eyes were bloodshot and big drops of tears fell down. Tears fell on Yi Ro's face. Yi Ro's eyelids moved with difficulty, but she still couldn't open her eyes. "Yi Ro?" Fang Yan gnashed his teeth and said, "You can't die. You said you would kill me 126 times, but you haven't done it. So you can't die." Fang Yan picked up Yi Ro's body and laid her on the stone bed. Then he put his palm flat on Yi Ro's belly button. "Move a mountain." Fang Yan wanted to move the volcano in Yi Ro's body into his own. Since the volcano needed to erupt, he would erupt in his body. Chapter 665. Sharing Life and Death. Most of these words appeared in movies or in the lyrics of musicians. In reality, how many people could do it? If you were alive, we would share joys and sorrows. If you were dead, another person would come to comfort you. However, if you really loved someone, you would be willing to do anything for her, including sacrifice. Don't laugh at the scenes in movies and TV dramas where people took the bullet for their lover. In reality, such people did exist. They were extremely rare, but they were also more precious. Fang Yin was one of them. Fang Yin only comprehended the dead wood, but he didn't understand spring. Therefore he came up with a compromise. He transferred the volcano in Yi Ro's body to himself and let himself bear the pain and all the consequences of the eruption of the volcano. In this way, Yi Ro could escape the heavenly tribulation and stand in front of him in a lovely and cold way again. He liked Yi Ro's arrogant look so much. Wearing plain black or white clothes, with a cold expression and indifferent eyes staring at you, as if this person is not familiar with me at all, even if the two of us have confirmed the relationship of love. However, when they were in front of others, they still walked separately. Yi Ro walked in front and Fang Yin followed or walked beside her. Fang Yin wanted to reach out and hold her little hand several times, but she brushed it off without hesitation. She disdains to show off to others that she has an excellent boyfriend. Fang Yin always comforted himself in this way. Fang Yin pressed his palm on Yi Ro's belly button. The fire in her dantian burned more fiercely, and the clothes there were burnt. As soon as Fang Yan's palm touched it, the clothes suddenly burned into ashes. Yi Ro's round belly button and purple-red skin were naked in front of Fang Yan. Fang Yan's hand directly pressed on Yi Ro's skin. Yi Ro slightly raised her eyebrows but soon returned to normal. Her remaining consciousness told her what was happening, but there was no room for her to resist. The temperature was still gradually increasing, and Fang Yan's palms could feel a scorching heat wave. Bang! As soon as his palm came into contact with it, a powerful force struck his palm. It was as if a hand stretched out from Yi Ro's belly button and slapped hard on Fang Yan's palm. The energy released by Fang Yan was dispersed and mercilessly expelled from Yi Ro's body. Just like last time, the energy was extremely overbearing. It wanted to enter Fang Yan's body through Fang Yan's arm and occupy a new body. Although Yi Ro was young, her cultivation was not low. The energy in his body was abundant, and his jinqi surged. He was truly not someone easy to deal with. Fang Yan's first attempt failed, so he pressed his palm on her belly button again. That powerful force pushed forward again. Fang Yan pressed down hard and at the same time, exerted strength in his palm. Fang Yan poured his true qi into Yi Ro's dantian, and the true qi in Yi Ro's body surged toward him. Fang Yan increased his strength and the boiling hot qi also increased its strength. Fang Yan increased his strength again, and the counterattack was also stronger and more majestic. Back and forth, the two of them played an interesting game that wasn't very clever. Fang Yan concentrated his qi in his dantian and gathered all his strength on his right palm that was pressing on Yi Ro's belly button. Whoosh! The powerful qi swept over and rushed toward Yi Ro's belly button. The volcano in Yi Ro's body became angry. It felt that its dignity was being challenged. Boom! The volcano drew strength from all the meridians and acupoints in Yi Ro's body and crushed toward Fang Yan's palm with great force. If you are hard, I will be harder. If you are strong, I will be stronger. This was a fight of life and death. Logically speaking, Fang Yan should have used his energy again to support himself. However, after he released his energy to attract all the power of the volcano inside Yi Ro, he suddenly withdrew his energy. In an instant, he retracted the energy that he had released, and the huge energy roamed around his body. It was like a torrent of water, destroying his body organs without restraint. You! Fang Yan groaned and a stream of blood spurted out of the corner of his mouth. Not only that, but the true qi of the volcano that Fang Yan had seduced, was also brought into his body. He had succeeded in the first step and successfully moved the volcano inside Yi Ro's body into his own. The true qi was not only strong, but also had a smell of gunpowder. It was like a canal of molten steel or a small burning flame, swishing in Fang Yan's body. Every time it passed through, it was like a burning steel knife scraping the inside of Fang Yan's meridians. Fang Yan was scraped over and over again. Ew. Ew. Fang Yan spat out mouthfuls of blood, and the blood splashed on Yi Ro's face and body. He stretched out his hand wanting to help Yi Ro wipe it. Suddenly, the strength that was drawn back for the first time collided with the power of the volcano that was drawn from Yi Ro's body. A loud sound rang out, causing Di Yan's internal organs to distort and shift along with it. A spicy taste choked his throat as if he had just swallowed a large amount of chili. His eyes, nose, mouth and ears were all spurting out blood, like a small spring. Fang Yan's vision darkened, and his body fell heavily to the ground. In the backyard. Yi clan's ancestral hall. Yi Daowen and Yi Daoling stood at the entrance of the Yi clan's ancestral hall. The men of the Yi clan stood in 2 rows. Except for the men who stayed behind to guard the 4 sides, everyone else was gathered here. Yi Daoling's injury was not serious because Fang Yan did not use his full strength. Otherwise, it would be normal for him to not be able to get out of bed for 3 to 5 months. Normally, the Yi clan's ancestral hall's door was closed. Except for important festivals or when a member of the family committed a great crime, it was usually not open. However, no matter what reason it was opened in the past, those who could enter the door were all members of the Yi family. There had never been an exception to this. However, the Yi clan's ancestral hall was pushed open by an outsider today. Yi Daowen looked at the open door of the ancestral hall, and his face was so gloomy that water could be squeezed out. As the person in charge of the Yi clan and the guardian of the old house, he paid the most attention to these etiquette and rules. Fang Yan's behavior was very unruly. This kid. Yi Daowen said in a low voice, we must make him give our Yi clan an explanation. His explanation is useless. We must let the Fang family's old man personally give our family an explanation. Did anyone go to the Fang family to report? Someone from their family ran to our Yi clan and acted wildly. Is there no one who came out to deal with it? Big brother, this matter is not urgent. Yi Daoling advised. Let's look at the situation first. Things have already happened. What we need to think about now is how to deal with the aftermath. As for the blame and punishment, we can push it back. The most important thing now is, what is Wen Nua's current situation? Was it just like what Fang Yan had said? Did something happen to her during the process of breaking through? You and I both know Fang Yan. Although he is usually mischievous, he is not someone who speaks without thinking. 3 years ago, he brought a group of brats from Swallow Dock to force Mr. Gong and snatch such an important position for our Yi clan. Is this something that a hot-headed brat can do? Wen Nua will naturally be fine, Yi Daowen said firmly. He had unlimited confidence in his daughter. Wen Nua has a calm temperament. She has never failed in something she has decided on. Yi Daoling shook his head and said, Big brother, other things are easy to say. However, the matter of seeking martial arts and seeking the Tao is indeed difficult to say. Those who can reach that step, which one of them is not a genius? What is the result? Didn't many people get into trouble? One wrong step will lead to a myriad of calamities. We have to be careful. Yi Daowen's expression became ugly and he shouted, Yi Daoling, what are you thinking? Wen Nua's breakthrough is something that has hundreds of benefits and no harm to our Yi clan. Can't you think more positively? Big brother, I think too much positively, so I don't want anything to happen to Wen Nua. Now that Fang Yan has already barged in, should we go in and take a look? Of course we have to go in and take a look. Yi Daowen's anger had not subsided. He was not angry at what his brother said, but at Fang Yan's reckless behavior. Wen Nua was his precious daughter and also a pillar of the Yi clan. If something went wrong because of Fang Yan's disturbance, then even chopping Fang Yan into pieces and feeding him to the fish would not be enough to vent his hatred. Then let's go in and take a look, Yi Daoling said. He led the way and took the lead to walk into the ancestral hall. Yi Daowen sighed and followed closely into the ancestral hall. Yi Fengxing and his cousins behind him looked at each other and all followed into the ancestral hall. There was an offering table in the ancestral hall with the ancestral tablets of the Yi clan's ancestors on it. There were 3 bronze incense burners on the offering table. Turning the incense burner on the far left could activate the mechanism in the basement of the Yi clan. Yi Daoling turned the incense burner 3 times to the left and 2 times to the right, and a stone door appeared in the middle of the wall. When Yi Daowen stepped into the stone door, he turned back and glared at Yi Fengxing. He scolded, Unfilial son, if it wasn't for your loose lips, how could Fang Yan find our Yi clan's secret passage? Yi Fengxing's expression was timid and he did not dare to speak. The secret passage in the Yi clan's ancestral hall was indeed revealed by him, who told him to like to play hide and seek with Fang Yan when he was young. Passing through the stone wall, they walked into a long stone tunnel. There were 2 stone rooms at the entrance. One was used for seclusion, and the other was used to avoid disaster and escape. Yi Daoling carefully pushed open the stone door on the left. After taking a look, he hurriedly closed the stone door again. Yi Daowen was shocked and asked, What happened? Be gentle with her. Her clothes are gone. Yi Daoling hesitated for a moment and said with a sigh, Chapter 666. What? Yi Daowen's expression froze, suspecting if he heard wrongly. About the children dash, Yi Daoling's voice contained a hint of comfort. Let them decide for themselves. What did you just say? Yi Daowen asked in a deep voice. Yi Daoling pointed at the thick stone door of the stone room and said in a low voice, "Two people not wearing cloths dash hua." There was an uproar outside the stone room. Everyone who heard the news was dumbfounded. They had an expression of, how could such a thing happen on their faces? No matter how anxious Fang Yen was, he only went in for a short while and Yi Ro was already naked? Moreover, with Yi Ro's personality, how could she do that kind of thing with Fang Yen here? Even if she did it, she would do it in her room. She wasn't that kind of person. It must be Fang Yen who took advantage of his sister's unprepared dash. Cousin was unconscious when she broke through, that's why Fang Yen took advantage of it. Fang Yen, this despicable person, I already knew he wasn't a good person. Yi Fengxing tried to hold it in but still couldn't help but say, could it be, they were dual cultivating? I heard that dual cultivating can yield twice the results with half the effort. Pa, Yi Daoling slapped Yi Fengxing's head and said, what dual cultivating? That kind of evil and obscene thing? Our Yi family doesn't have that kind of technique and method to break through. Don't say such words again. If anyone spreads it, I'll skin him alive. Got it? Yi Fengxing covered his head and said. The other children of the Yi family also nodded, expressing that they wouldn't spread it. Yi Daowen was dazed at first, then the anger in his heart rose rapidly, causing his face to turn red. His eyes were filled with murderous intent as he shouted, move aside. Let me go in and chop that bastard to death. Yi Daoling blocked the door and said, big brother, since it's like this, let's handle it carefully. Carefully? How can we be careful? If it wasn't for the ancestor stopping me, I would have already. How could this happen? Yi Daoling was furious. Yi Daoling smiled bitterly and said, Ro is currently in the breakthrough phase dash. Breakthrough what? They even have the face to do such a thing? Big brother, don't be rash. There might be some hidden secrets. Go in and tie up Fang Yen. I don't care who pleads for him this time, I will fight him to the death. It's not appropriate for us to go in. Yi Daoling said. Let's get an elder to go in. Let third aunt go in to take a look and cover them with clothes. Yi Daowen didn't refuse this time. He also felt that it was not appropriate for him or any other male member of the Yi family to go in. After all, the two animals had taken off their clothes. Yi family. In the lobby. Fang Hui was drowsily sitting in his wheelchair. The Vajra eagle was also looking around listlessly. Yi Daowen's face was pitch black like the bottom of a pot. He sat on the Grand Preceptor's chair and drank tea without saying a word. Yi Daoling still maintained the respect of an elder and said in a low voice, Old man, you already know about the matter. Shouldn't you say something? Fang Hui opened his eyes and asked with a blank face, Daoling, what did you just say? Yi Daoling smiled bitterly and said, I said that Fang Yen broke into our Yi family's ancestral hall at night and did that with Wen Wan. If this gets out, will our Yi family still have the face to go out and meet people? Oh, you're talking about that matter. Fang Hui laughed loudly and said, let them decide their own matters. Our brat and Wen Wan are not people who can't make their own decisions. Why would they not have the face to meet people? Don't be surprised. Elder Fang, your words are so light. Fang Yen smashed the door of our Yi family in the middle of the night, broke into our ancestral hall, and even hugged my daughter Wen Wan. You just said, let them decide, and send him away? If this happened in your Fang family, I'm afraid Elder Fang wouldn't be happy, right? Fang Hui looked at Yi Daoling with murky eyes and said, Daoling, I know you're angry. This matter was indeed Fang Yan's fault. He was too reckless. It was another way. Of course, if it was another way, you wouldn't agree to let an outsider enter your Yi family's ancestral hall, would you? Elder Fang, do you think that Fang Yen should naturally enter our Yi family's ancestral hall? That won't do. Absolutely not. Every family has their own rules. Who dares to disturb the ancestors of other families? That would be a great sin. Elder Fang waved his hand and said, no matter how broad his mind was, no matter how much he spoiled his grandson Fang Yen, he still had his own traditions that he wanted to uphold. For example, the glory of the family, the peace of the ancestors, and so on. Therefore, Fang Hui actually didn't approve of his grandson Fang Yen breaking into someone else's ancestral hall. If this kind of thing happened in his Fang family, he would probably fight to the death. The Fang family was weak, so they had to fight to the death. Because that was the only way to protect the honor of the family and the peace of the ancestors. The Yi family's development was like the sun in the sky, so they didn't really care about these things. It wasn't that they didn't care about the honor of the family and the peace of the ancestors, but because they didn't need to use extreme methods to prove something. Even if Fang Yen smashed the gate of the Yi family and barged into the ancestral shrine of the Yi family, no one would say that the Yi family was in trouble or that the Yi family was being bullied. Because the Yi family was confident and powerful. It was precisely because of this that they had to express a magnanimous attitude towards others. This was also the reason why the Yi family didn't go to the Fang family to denounce them, but instead asked someone to respectfully invite Elder Fang Huwei over. But Fang Yen did, that's why he had to go in. Fang Huwei said aloud. Think about it. Is my grandson Fang Yen stupid? Yi Daoling and Yi Daowen looked at each other and shook their heads. That kid was naturally not stupid. Not only was he not stupid, but he was also one of the smartest people in the world. That's why, since he is not stupid, why did he break into your Yi family's ancestral hall in the middle of the night? There must be a reason why he had to break in, right? Elder Fang Huwei said. After dinner, that kid accompanied me to enjoy the cool air in the courtyard. Suddenly, he said that he was restless, and then he strode towards your Yi family? What could make him so anxious? It must have something to do with Wenruru's seclusion breakthrough. He came for your Wenruru. Elder, this is too far-fetched, Yi Daoling retorted. Our Wenruru is cultivating in seclusion and is at the critical moment of her breakthrough. Your grandson Fang Yen came to make trouble regardless of anything. According to what you said, our Yi family still owes you a big favor, right? Whether we owe a big favor or not depends on our own conscience. Elder Fang Huwei said with a smile. Our Fang family doesn't want this. I just think you are making too much of a fuss. This matter hasn't been investigated clearly yet, and you are already convicting him? Yi Daowen was furious and said, Isn't this clear enough? We saw it with our own eyes, clearly and clearly. What do we need to understand? Fang Huwei yawned and said, You have already tied him up. Beat, scold, kill or torture. It's up to you. I'm old and my body can't take it anymore. I'm going back to rest. After that, Fang Huwei pushed the wheelchair out. Elder, Yi Daoling called out. Fang Huwei didn't even turn his head and laughed. If you don't mind, I will find a matchmaker to propose marriage to Yi family tomorrow. Don't even think about it. Yi Daowen said in an evil tone. He was really angry. This Fang family was simply a family of scoundrels. When Fang Huwei was pushed home by a disciple, Lu Wan had already gotten dressed and was waiting in the courtyard. Since Fang Yixing left, Lu Wan's sleep was very light. She couldn't fall asleep anymore if there was any movement. Sometimes in her dreams, she dreamed that Fang Yen was bullied and chased by others. She would be very nervous. When she woke up, she knew that it was just a dream, but she still felt uneasy in her heart. She sat until dawn. She guessed that Fang Yen would probably get up at this time to exercise. She would call him or send him a message, using some small topics that she had specially considered, such as the weather is going to change today, and he should pay attention to wearing more clothes. It's the winter solstice and he should remember to eat dumplings. Your grandfather has been in a bad mood recently. You should call him when you have time. She missed and worried about her son all the time. However, she couldn't let him know that she was so concerned. Lu Wan knew that Fang Yen went out in a hurry. She also thought that he was just going to drink and play with the group of children. Lu Jiawan was quite satisfied with her son. She was even proud of him. He had been independent since he was a child and he was smart. He could make many decisions by himself. This saved them a lot of trouble as parents. However, when the Yi family came to invite Fang Huwei to have a talk, Lu Wan had a feeling of fear. Is it, Fang Yen became enemies with the Yi family again? Lu Wan thought in her heart. Or they don't agree that Fang Yen and Ruru should be together? Lu Wan liked Yi Ruru. She could also see that Yi Ruru liked Fang Yen. Because no matter how others said that Yi Ruru was proud and indifferent, Yi Ruru was gentle and polite in front of her. Yi Ruru even tried to please her. They were both women. Wasn't her intention clear enough? But what on earth happened? Lu Wan looked at her father, Fang Huwei. She deliberately suppressed the uneasiness in her heart and asked, Dad, is Fang Yen all right? Fang Huwei sat in the wheelchair and waved his hand. He said in a low voice, Fang Yen is a bastard. He went to the Yi family and slept with the girl. Lu Wan was about to say something with worry, but she saw the irrepressible smile on Fang Huwei's face. Is he happy? Chapter 667. Dad. Lu Wan looked at Fang Huwei carefully and said with uncertainty, Aren't you worried? The Yi family invited you over so late. They must be talking about Fang Yen, right? They haven't released Fang Yen yet. Will there be any problem? Fang Huwei was indeed laughing. At first he restrained himself, but after he laughed he became a little unscrupulous and said, "Don't you think it's something worth being happy about?" Lu Wan thought for a while, but she really didn't understand what was worth being happy about. Her son harmed the Yi family's daughter, and now the Yi family was going to vent their anger on her son. How could she laugh? Fang Yin and the Yi family's girl have been in love for a long time. Fang Yin likes that girl, and Wen Wan has taken care of our Fang family a lot these years. She often comes to our house. Fang Yin is a good boy. He is one of the best boys in Swallow Dock. In the whole Huaxia, there are only a few young people who can be better than my grandson. They are all too childish. Although Lu Wan liked others to praise her son, she really couldn't accept it when her father-in-law spared no effort in praising her grandson. This kind of thing shouldn't be said from others' mouth. Lu Wan, you have a good son. Fang Yen is really an excellent young man. Our Xiao Xiao is as good as your Fang Yen, and then said some modest words with a smile. While pointing out some harmless shortcomings of her son, she also praised other people's children, saying, "You are good, I am good, and everyone is good. If you dare to say that other people's children are not good, others will not say that your children are good in the future, even if other people's children are not good." Wen Wan is also a good boy. His appearance is perfect and so is his ability. Why did I beg the Yi family shamelessly? Why did I send my grandson to be humiliated by them? To tell you the truth, I'm doing this for a reason. Ruru is the granddaughter-in-law I've chosen for Fang Yen for a long time. I can't let such a good girl be taken away by someone else. I'll let them get to know each other and settle you. Ruru. Lu Wan wanted to refute her father-in-law. In the past few years, the relationship between Fang Yen and Yi Ro was more than just an exchange of acquaintances. Every year in the competition, Yi Ro never showed mercy to Fang Yen. When Fang Yen mentioned Yi Ro, he always referred to her as that savage woman, that big dinosaur, and that ugly monster. Did this mean that he had decided on his aunt in advance? He felt that things were not so reliable. As if he knew what Lu Wan was thinking, Fang Huwei said with a smile, "I know that Fang Yen was wronged a few years ago, but he was not as good as others. If he could beat tenderness and defeat her in a fair and square manner, wouldn't the other side be the one who would suffer? He couldn't beat her. It's reasonable for him to suffer some physical pain. However, there are advantages to not being able to beat her. It can also stimulate his fighting spirit and let him know that there is always someone better than him in the world." He comprehended the heart of Tai Chi at such a young age. I dare say that half of this achievement is due to tenderness. Tenderness did help a lot, Lu Wan echoed. She was still uneasy in her heart and said, "But the thing in front of us. Besides, Fang Yen is a boy. He didn't suffer any losses," Fang Huwei said rudely. "If he has a child, he will be our Fang family's child. This kind of thing is not good for a woman's reputation." Lu Wan thought about the words in her mind. She was born in a scholarly family and had a different way of thinking from these martial arts people. Fang Yen is my son. I certainly hope for the best for him. I like tenderness too. It's rare to see such a simple and clean girl. However, there are some things that can't be rushed. The Yi family is also a big family. The Yi family is arrogant, and they usually have their eyes on the top of their heads. They feel that they have treated tenderness unfairly. However, Fang Yen is so reckless. He ran into the Yi family in the middle of the night and did such a stupid thing. How can tenderness live in the future? How can the Yi family raise their heads in the future? Even as a mother, I also feel ashamed. Lu Wan sighed and said, "Where is Fang Yen now? I'll go to the Yi family. This kind of thing has to be explained clearly to someone. This time it's really us who let him down." Fang Huwei looked at his daughter-in-law with a gratified face. She was gentle, wise, and generous. She didn't deliberately cater to him because of her father-in-law's authority. She had her own world in her heart. However, she didn't have good fortune. Seeing Lu Wan turning around to leave, Fang Huwei sighed and said, "Lu Wan, you don't have to go." "Dad, what do you mean?" Lu Wan slightly raised her eyebrows, not because she was angry, but because she didn't understand why Fang Huwei stopped her. Whether it was to bring back her son or to apologize to the Yi family, these two things were very important to her. As a mother, she couldn't delay or neglect them. There's something hidden in this matter. Fang Huwei explained aloud. "You know that guy's temper. How can he be such a lascivious person? And even if he is lascivious, he won't smash people's door and break into people's ancestral hall. Fang Yen doesn't have such a strange taste, and our Fang family doesn't have such a bad upbringing. What on earth happened in the middle? I don't know. But I think it's for the good of the Yi family's girl. They now have a misunderstanding about Fang Yen and want to get rid of the evil for the people. At this time, no matter what we say, they won't believe it. Then, when the truth comes out, they will come to apologize themselves." "Dad, Lu Wan was even more worried and said, "They are angry now. If they do something to Fang Yan, they won't." Fang Huwei waved his hand and said confidently, "If they really wanted to do something to Fang Yan, they wouldn't have pushed me to the Yi family in the middle of the night. Just wait and see. It will be a good result." With such a thing happening, Fang Yan and Wen Raoan will definitely get married. Then what about the marriage between Fang Yan and Wen Raoan? Fang Huwei was silent for a while and then said, "How can the Yi family be willing to let an expert who is about to enter the heavenly Dao realm go? Back then they only wanted to find a good wife for their grandson, but they didn't expect that this granddaughter-in-law is too outstanding and unsuitable." Before Fang Yan opened his eyes, he had already smelled the smell of the sun. It was warm, soft and not hot, as if a pair of delicate little hands were stroking his skin. So comfortable. Fang Yan sighed in his heart. He didn't know if he laughed, but he knew that he must be enjoying it very much. Insects chirped and birds chirped. The autumn wind brought the fragrance of flowers, making people want to take a few more breaths. This is a beautiful morning. When Fang Yan opened his eyes, he met a pair of eyes. Yi Daowen, Yi Daoling, Yi Fengxing Yi and a group of younger members of the Yi family were all staring at him. Fang Yan was stunned for a moment and then he understood. Yi Raoan was in danger when she was breaking through the heavenly Dao, and he was not afraid of sacrificing himself to save her. What kind of person was Yi Raoan? She was the most promising and most popular junior in the Yi family. She was Yi Daowen's daughter, Yi Daoling's niece, and a representative figure of the Yi family's rise on the path of martial arts. There were countless obvious and hidden benefits, and the Yi family didn't want anything to happen to Yi Raoan. However, when he had a premonition that when Raoan was in trouble and came to her rescue, he encountered all kinds of humiliation and obstruction. Now that the truth was out, they must be feeling guilty and remorseful, right? Apologize. Yes, an apology was a must. He didn't need to apologize, but if they apologized, it would prove that he was in the wrong, and then he could ask for some small compensation. For example, asking them to agree to marry Yi Raoan to him as his wife? They would definitely feel that his request was too much, and that he was asking for too much. However, if they understood what he had done, they wouldn't have such thoughts in their hearts. That was moving a mountain. Although it was said to be moving a mountain, it was actually moving a grenade that could explode at any time in Yi Raoan's body into his own body. Yi Raoan was safe and sound, but he could die at any time. If it wasn't true love, how could a person be willing to die for another person? Since they already knew that their love for Yi Raoan was true, then what reason did they have to refuse a man who loved Yi Raoan? He smiled at Yi Daowen and Yi Daoling and said, "Uncle, third uncle, why are you here? Don't mind these small things, I just did what I should do." Everyone looked at Fang Yan as if they were looking at a lunatic. This guy made such a big mistake, yet he still had an expression that wanted to be praised. What was he thinking? Fang Yan, do you still have any shame? What kind of hero is taking advantage of someone's difficulties? Fang Yan, if you don't give my Yi family an explanation today. The crowd was agitated and everyone began to concentrate their firepower on Fang Yan. Fang Yan's expression stiffened again, and then the smile that spread out was filled with endless bitterness. "You guys bullied me like this, I won't easily forgive you later." Chapter 668. Everyone in the Yi family was furious. If it wasn't for the fact that Fang Yan was lying on the bed, they would have wanted to make a move on Fang Yan. Even if they couldn't win, they had to fight. They had to let Fang Yan beat them to death. Yi Fengxing was caught in a dilemma and whispered, "I think it's better to figure out the situation first. We have to wait for cousin to wake up to know what the situation is. Isn't that right, everyone? If we misunderstood Fang Yan, wouldn't we have to apologize to him? Those who practice martial arts need to be steady and calm, to strike only after the enemy has struck." Yi Fengxing and Fang Yan were good friends, but Fang Yan made such a big mistake in the Yi family. It was difficult for him to say a word even if he wanted to help. One had to know that from last night until now, several cousins didn't give him a good look. Especially after his first uncle Yi Daowen accused him of revealing the secret path to the Yi clan's ancestral hall, Yi Fengxing suffered a lot of supercilious looks. Some older brothers and sisters even sharply criticized him for pushing the Yi clan into danger. Yi Fengxing, what misunderstanding. We all saw it with our own eyes. It was Fang Yan who forced his way in and ruined gentle cultivation. Yi Dongxue said coldly. Yi Dongxue was a child of the second master's branch. He was only 2 years older than Yi Fengxing, but he could use the identity of the big brother to scold Yi Fengxing. Yi Dongxue saw Yi Fengxing's situation and could only swallow the words he wanted to say. This time, Fang Yan really angered everyone. Even his father was very dissatisfied with Fang Yan's reckless behavior. Yi Daolin's face was gloomy, and his eyes were filled with anger as he stared at Fang Yan. Yi Daoling's expression was still calm, but he thoughtfully looked at Fang Yan, who had a bitter smile on his face. After the younger generation made a ruckus for a while, Yi Daoling waved his hand and signaled everyone to quiet down. Yi Daoling looked at Fang Yan and said, "Fang Yan, how do you feel now? Are you all right?" Fang Yan said uncertainly. When he was being attacked and insulted by the people of the Yi clan, he secretly let his true qi circulate through the meridians of his body. Other than the fact that his body felt empty and it was difficult for him to breathe, he didn't feel anything else. Where did the volcano go? They had clearly exploded in his body, but what were the consequences of the explosion? Did he cause any trauma to himself? Why can't I feel anything? Fang Yan was puzzled. That's impossible. With the heat of that volcano and the scale of its eruption, even if it didn't blow people up into pieces, it would at least turn their internal organs into charcoal. They were even prepared to die. Yi Daoling raised his eyebrows slightly and said, "Is it good or bad?" "It shouldn't be good," Fang Yan said. "But I don't feel anything wrong for the time being. Maybe I'll be crippled in the future? Don't worry. I'll let you know when the results are out. Where's the gentleness? How's Tingwen now? You still have the face to mention Wenwan?" Yi Daowen suppressed the hostility in his heart and shouted angrily. "Wenwan became like this because of you." Fang Yan smiled and didn't answer Yi Daowen's question. He knew that there must be a big misunderstanding in this. Yi Daoling patted his elder brother's shoulder and motioned him not to be angry. Then he looked at Fang Yan and asked, "Fang Yan, tell me the truth. What happened last night? What did you do after you broke into the stone room?" Fang Yan reached out and rubbed his forehead and said, "Before I fought with third uncle, I said that I felt that Wenwan's situation was not good. Something might happen." Yi Daowen's eyes were slightly cold, but he endured and didn't say anything. "Later, when I was fighting with third uncle, I took the opportunity to slip away and broke into the stone room under the ancestral hall. When I went in, Wenwan was lying on the floor of the stone room, struggling and rolling. The temperature of her body was very high, and she was about to burn herself. There was a volcano in her body, and then I found a way to move the volcano into my body, and then I fainted. What happened after that, I have no idea at all." Yi Daoling frowned and said, "You mean that when you went in, Wenwan was already in a bad situation?" "Exactly." Fang Yan said with absolute certainty. "Nonsense." Yi Dongxue retorted unceremoniously. "You heard that Wenwan was about to break through again, so you deliberately came to disturb her, right? Now you have succeeded." Fang Yan stared at Yi Dongxue with sharp eyes and said, "What did you say?" Although Fang Yan's body was weak and it was difficult for him to gather qi, but his eyes were still sharp. Yi Dongxue met Fang Yan's eyes, and he felt a tingling feeling like being pricked by a long needle. Only then did he remember that this man had the heart of Tai Chi, and it was said that he broke through again and achieved the light of Tai Chi. Even the old men of Taoism specially came to visit. A few days ago they heard that he killed Bai Xiu outside, the #1 expert of the younger generation of Swallow Fort in their minds. If they were to really fight, he might not be able to do anything to him. However, in front of the elders of the family he must not give in. Although he felt guilty, he still sneered and said, "Isn't it? Do you think we don't know what happened between you and Wenwan? If Wenwan conquered heaven, do you think there will still be a chance between you two? You are afraid of this, so at the critical moment of Wenwan's breakthrough, you deliberately rushed in to disturb her breakthrough, saying that you had a premonition before breaking the door. Do you think you are a god of divination? Fang Yan, using such nonsense to deceive our Yi family, do you think we are all idiots? I knew it would be like this," Fang Yan said with a wry smile. Fang Yan sat up from the bed, looked at Yi Daoling and said, "Uncle, third uncle, do you think so in your heart? Fang Yan, if that's not the case, can you give me an explanation?" Yi Daoling clenched his fist and shouted in a deep voice, "Wenwan's breakthrough in the secret room was supposed to be a foolproof thing. However, you broke the door in the middle of the night and broke in at the critical moment of Wenwan's breakthrough. Fang Yan, don't try to deceive us with the lie that you had a premonition that Wenwan would have an accident. Outsiders don't know how Wenwan is. How can you know?" "Fang Yan, I originally didn't believe that you would do such a thing." Yi Daoling sighed softly and said, "Wenwan was inspired and broke through in the stone room. This is a big thing for our Yi family. As a result, after you broke in, Wenwan failed to break through and has not woken up until now. Fang Yan, if you say that you have no selfishness, I'm afraid it will be difficult to give a satisfactory explanation." Yi Daoling was a smart person, and smart people's imagination was particularly rich. After Fang Yen broke into the stone room, the first person to open the stone door was him. When he saw Yin Wan and Fang Yen hugging each other naked, he mistakenly thought that the two of them had some relationship beyond friendship. Even if they didn't really do anything deep for a traditional family like theirs, it was enough to scare people. However, after they were carried out of the stone room, Yi Daoling knew that the two of them were temporarily innocent according to some experience and detailed analysis. Yin Wan still maintained her virginity, and Fang Yen was not a lustful person. However, another problem appeared. Yin Wan failed to break through. Did she fail because of herself or because of Fang Yan's harassment? This was also the reason why the Yi family was so angry. Fang Yan, you are a smart person. Yi Daoling looked at Fang Yan and smiled silently. He said, in my opinion, you are the best among the younger generation of Swallow Dock. Especially the incident 3 years ago, it made me feel shocked. It is precisely because you are too smart that we can talk about some things more clearly. You like Wen Wan. Are you willing to admit this? Fang Yan grinned and said, why can't I admit it? I like Yin Wan. Wen Wan also has a good impression of you. Don't say it so lightly. Fang Yan waved his hand. Yin Wan likes me too. I am her boyfriend and she is my girlfriend. If it wasn't for my father's grave, we might have become husband and wife. Since you admit it, then you should know that if Yin Wan breaks through Heavenly Tao, the Yi family will never agree to your marriage. Isn't that right? Yes, I know. Fang Yan nodded with absolute certainty. Every family is like this. It is not easy to cultivate a talent. Yin Wan is a rare martial arts genius. If she succeeds in breaking through this time, she will be a rare martial arts genius in hundreds of years. There is no doubt about her excellence. As long as one has eyes, they can see it. Fang Yan looked at the Yi family standing in front of him and said, I have thought about this problem a long time ago. The Yi family will not easily let go of Wen Wan. If we want to be together, we will definitely encounter a lot of obstacles. However, there is no other way. I have already fallen in love with her. Since I have fallen in love, then there is no way to find another woman to fall in love with. If it is so easy to do, then this kind of love is not love. This kind of love is not worthy of Yin Wan. What else can I do? Fang Yan shrugged his shoulders and laughed self-deprecatingly. He said, as long as you don't kill me or cripple me, I will marry her as my woman. This is something that has been decided a long time ago. It has been decided 3 years ago. I will not change and she will not change, so only you can make some changes. Chapter 669. Autumn was gradually approaching and Swallow Dock was now a bit chilly. The leaves of the locust trees in the yard were still lush, but they were dazzling yellow. The sunlight, which was not so hot, shone on these yellow leaves, making them more golden, and even the edge of the leaves seemed to leak light. Most of the people in the room were wearing unlined shirts, which didn't make people feel cold. For martial arts practitioners like them, a little cold wind couldn't hurt them at all. Even in winter, it was easy for them to swim naked. Yi was the weakest, but she also had some martial arts foundation. At this time, she didn't show any abnormality. She had a good relationship with her sister Yi Ro since childhood, and she had always regarded Yi Ro as her idol. Therefore, Yi Ro's position was her position, and her position had always changed with Yi Ro's position. When she just learned that Sister Ro and Fang Yan were in love, she rejected it in her heart, and even questioned Sister Ro's choice to her face. She thought that Fang Yan didn't deserve Sister Ro. As for who could deserve Sister Ro, she didn't have a specific name or outline in her mind. She just thought that it should be someone more excellent and powerful than Fang Yan. There were many talents in Yanjing City, and heroes were like carps crossing the river. Why did she have to choose a husband in Swallow Dock? But Sister Ro was willing to endure it and she could only accept it. Therefore, from last night to this morning, she had been trying to say a few words for Fang Yan. Although she knew that no one would listen to her words, and it probably wouldn't have a good effect. After hearing what Fang Yan said, she didn't get angry like the Yi family, but was a little moved. A sincere man, a stubborn man, a man who wouldn't give up easily. Wasn't such a man what women longed for and pursued? In the autumn morning light, in the backyard of the Yi family, where insects and birds wandered freely, the man was slowly saying something on his mind. I know you won't like what I said and you will even be very angry. But it's really from the bottom of my heart. I also know that no matter what I say, you won't agree to let Yi Ro marry me. Using words to move people is meaningless in your eyes. At this point in time, you won't be thinking about love or not. To you, this is just a trivial matter. The first thing you consider is that your family will lose a Heavenly Tao expert. You will imagine it as a Mowen or a divine dragon that can injure a Mowen. They are only at the heavenly Tao realm. If Yi Gentle succeeds in ascending the heavenly Tao, she will be a figure like them. Such a person can dominate the 9 heavens and soar tens of thousands of kilometers. How much influence and benefits can she bring to the Yi family? Fang Yan was lying on the mahogany bed near the window. This was Yi Fengxing's bed. In the past, when Fang Yan came to find Yi Fengxing, he would often roll around on this bed. But I care. I like Yi Ruru, so I must marry her. You will object. You will object vehemently, but I will also find ways to get her. We may elope, or we may set up a table outside, light a pair of candles and get married. That's what couples in feudal society would do when they are forced to do. Now it's a legal society. Yiro and I are both adults. We will bring our ID cards to Beijing, or to any government office. We can legally become husband and wife for only 9 yuan. If you dare to break us up, you will be breaking the law. I will sue you. We have known each other for so long. You must not think that I am a lecher. But if I have no choice, I will not hesitate to coax you with flowery words. Drinking or drugging is also possible. I have to find a way to do it. I want Yiro to be my woman. I want Yiro to give birth to our child. I want Yiro to be with me. It's better for you to be angry than for me to sulk. It's better for outsiders to scold me for being shameless than to scold myself for being useless. Look, I can also be like you, a man who will do anything. I won't talk back if you scold me. It's natural for me to suffer a little grievance if I want to abduct someone else's girl. If you hit me, I will naturally dodge or fight back because I know you may really kill me. I don't want to die. If I marry Yiro, I don't want to die. Everyone present was stunned. No one would have thought that he would be so direct with his words, and that he would be so blatant about it. The men of the Yi family were either angry, sarcastic, or staring at him with deep eyes. Watching him speak his mind could also be regarded as another form of declaration of war. This was probably the meaning of Fang Yan's vow to marry Yiro. I want to tell you that I will definitely marry Yiro. Fang Yan looked at the people in front of the bed and said. His tone was calm, but there was unshakable firmness in his words. But I also want to do it beautifully so that you will feel less resentful. At least don't let Ro be in such a dilemma. Although Ro looks cold, she values affection the most in her heart. She values the love between us and she values the affection between you more. We can fight and scold each other unscrupulously, but what about Ro? She doesn't want to give up our feelings, she doesn't want to disappoint your affection, so she can only be in a dilemma in the middle. I don't want Ro to be in a dilemma. Fang Yan looked at Yi Daowen and Yi Daoling and said, So, today I will tell you my thoughts and what I want to do. I want to marry Yi Ro, and what do you want me to do? Marry into her family. Yi Daowen gritted his teeth and said. Fang Yan smiled bitterly and said, It seems that I am in a dilemma now. Let's not be changed by him. Someone reminded him. He hasn't confessed whether he deliberately destroyed Sister Ro's breakthrough. How can I prove that I didn't mean it? Fang Yan looked at the young man and asked. When Ro wakes up, won't everything be revealed? What if Sister Ro is biased? The man retorted unwillingly. Do you want to force him to death? A cold voice sounded behind them. Everyone turned around and saw Yi Ro in black standing behind them, coldly glancing at the people in the room. Her face was pale, her eyes were lifeless, and she had to rely on the support of a young maid even to stand. The failure of this breakthrough really had a great impact on Yi Ro. Ro, you're awake? Yi Daowen hurried over. After all, she was his daughter, and as a father he was very concerned. Yi Daoling walked over, reached out his hand to feel Yi Ro's wrist, and said in a deep voice, Your pulse is weak and your breath is difficult to find. It may be caused by excessive fatigue. Why don't you have a good rest when you wake up? What are you doing here? Yi Ro's gaze passed through the crowd and met the eyes of Fang Yan, who was sitting on the bed. Yi Ro was fine and Fang Yan grinned. Fang Yan was fine and Yi Ro also chuckled. One smiled openly and the other smiled gently. This smile was particularly dazzling in the eyes of many people. He is my savior. Yi Ro said aloud. Ro. Yi Daowen raised an eyebrow and said, What happened at the time? You can't talk nonsense about this kind of thing. Yi Daowen was worried that in order to protect Fang Yan, Yi Ro would deliberately say something beneficial to Fang Yan. If he is a narrow-minded person. Yi Ro's gaze was still on Fang Yan, but she answered her father's question. Do you think I will like him? Yi Daoling looked at his elder brother Yi Daowen and said with a smile, Ro, don't blame your father. He is also worried about you. There are some things you may not be clear about. At that time, it was the critical moment of your seclusion. Fang Yen broke the door and I even fought with him. You also know the attitude of the family towards your seclusion. Everyone was careful for fear of affecting you. So Fang Yen barged in so casually. We were worried that he would disturb your state of mind, but it didn't mean that he had any bad intentions. We were protecting you. Fang Yen also said it was to protect you, but the result was, so we just wanted to figure out the problem. I encountered a problem during my seclusion. I couldn't make up my mind. Yi Rou said. What aspect couldn't you make up your mind? Yi Daoling asked. Severing my emotions. Yi Rou said. Yi Daoling sighed softly. He didn't expect to face such a problem while climbing the heavenly Tao. With his cultivation level, he didn't need to consider such a problem for a while. However, if it was just severing his emotions, why couldn't he make up his mind? One had to know that the heavenly Tao was the only great Tao in the world. Serving the Tao was also fundamental. In order to climb above the heavenly Tao, what was the point of caring about love? The elusive black dragon, the divine dragon that soared into the sky, and the talented azure dragon were all heavenly Tao realm experts. Weren't they dedicated to serving the Tao? How could they be affected by the mundane matters? To them, these were ultimately trivial matters. A person might only have one such opportunity in their life. If they lost it, it would probably be too difficult to break through again. Yi Daowen looked at Yi Rou with a puzzled expression and said, Emotions? How do you sever it? That crane is Fang Yen. That deer is Fang Yen. That enemy general is Fang Yen. That malicious ghost is also Fang Yen. Yi Rou looked at Fang Yen with a burning gaze before turning her gaze away shyly. She said, I can't bear to kill him. Chapter 670. That crane is you, that deer is you, that enemy general is you, and that malicious ghost is also you. So I can't bear to kill you. Yi Rou said it lightly, and there was only a little shyness on her face. She was not used to expressing her feelings with this kind of attitude in words, but Fang Yen could hear the danger and deep affection in her words. What was the way of heaven? Fang Yen didn't have a chance to see the real body, so he didn't understand it. But for Yi Rou, who was trying to break through, there was a world in every grain of sand, and a heaven in every flower. Every thought and every scene was an opportunity. The crane was an opportunity, the deer was an opportunity, the enemy general was an opportunity, and the evil ghost was also an opportunity. Every time a scene flashed, it was an opportunity for Yi Rou to break through the shackles and climb the heavenly path. It could be seen that Yi Rou was actually full of confidence for this breakthrough. Because even God was willing to give her so many opportunities. At that time she just needed to follow the way of heaven. Then there would be another way of heaven in Swallow Dock, just like the old drunkard Mo Qingdi. This was a happy event for the Yi family, and also something for the whole Swallow Dock to be proud of. However, the words, I can't bear to kill him, meant that she missed such a great opportunity. Learning martial arts was more difficult than crossing a single plank bridge in the college entrance examination. No matter good or bad students, no matter how hard they studied or how lazy they were, as long as they endured for a certain period of time, the school would give them a fair chance to take the exam. But climbing the way of martial arts wasn't like that. There was no competition. You only needed to give yourself competition. There was no examiner. Your strength was the biggest affirmation of yourself. Ordinary people would have to wait for decades, but Yi Gentle let it in so easily. She let go of the chance to climb the way of heaven. Between the way of heaven and Fang Yen, she chose Fang Yen. Fang Yen had to admit that Yi Rou's words touched him. His heart was full of affection and even his eyes were a little red. Others didn't know what she had paid for this, but he did. She went against the way of heaven, and in the end her realm collapsed, her energy scattered, and her whole body burned like a volcano that was about to erupt. If he hadn't arrived in time, Yi Rou might have died. Because I can't kill Fang Yen, my mind is in a mess and my aura is out of control. My eyes couldn't see, my ears couldn't hear, and there was only a sliver of remnant thought in my heart. My body's temperature was rising, and my mouth was getting thirstier. Breathing was difficult and I nearly died. Back then, I also thought that I was about to die. Yi Gentle recounted what she had encountered while climbing the heavenly Tao realm. This was an incomparably precious experience. For experts like Yi Daowen and Yi Daoling who had the possibility of climbing the heavenly Tao, this was a hint. For the younger generation of the Yi clan, this was a very good warning and example. After all, not everyone had the opportunity to climb the heavenly way. Even if someone did, they wouldn't share their experiences and insights with others for free. However, Yi Rou deliberately mentioned this in front of Fang Yen, which naturally made the Yi family feel a little indignant. This is the treasure that our Yi family has risked our lives for. How could he just give it to an outsider? Is it worth it? Fang Yin looked at Yi Ro and asked. You missed such a good chance. What about you? Yi Ro looked at Fang Yin with bright eyes. Her face was as pale as a sheet, and it was because of this that when she began to feel shy, the blush on her face would be especially clear and alluring. You nearly died to save me. Is it worth it? Fang Yin grinned and said, Aren't I living well now? It's just an opportunity. Yi Ro said, Just try again next time. Her voice was indifferent, but her attitude was unyielding. To her, climbing the heavenly Tao was like eating a sumptuous meal. If she didn't eat it today, she could eat it next time. As Fang Yin laughed, Yi Ro laughed as well. The two of them laughed in an unrestrained and warm manner. Yi Daowen couldn't stand it any further as he coughed forcefully a few times. She was flirting with another man in front of her father. Was this still his daughter Yi Ro? Such a Yi Ro made him feel unfamiliar and uncomfortable. Yi Daowen looked at Yi Ro and said, Was it really Fang Yin who saved you? Yes. Yi Ro replied seriously. She didn't like to lie, and every word she said seemed to be honest. Yi Daowen examined his daughter's face several times and nodded. Then we misunderstood Fang Yin. Yi Daoling looked at Fang Yin thoughtfully, then looked at Yi Ro and said, Fang Yin came to say that he had a premonition that something might happen to you. Is there really such a thing as a telepathic connection? I don't know if there is, but when Fang Yin went over. Yi Ro thought for a moment and said, I was already delirious and was suffering from the heart fire. Ro's state at that time was very dangerous. If the heart fire was allowed to burn or explode in her body, it is possible. Fang Yin thought for a moment and said, She would either be crazy or stupid. Her life might even be in danger. This is also the reason why I broke into the Yi family's ancestral hall in a hurry. So, please forgive me. This is also for the good of the Yi family. After figuring out the situation and knowing that he misunderstood Fang Yin, Yi Daowen was straightforward. He bowed deeply to Fang Yin on the bed and said, Thank you for saving Ro. Fang Yin waved his hand and said, I just said that Ro is my girlfriend. If you want me to save her, I will save her. If you don't want me to save her, I will save her. We will discuss other things later, Yi Daowen said. He was still unwilling to admit the identity of Fang Yin as his prospective son-in-law. He was even unwilling to discuss this topic with him in depth. This was a major event related to the Yi family. As a father, he might not be able to make the decision. However, he was Yi Ro's father and could make the decision to a certain extent. He turned to look at Yi Ro and said, Your body is weak. Go back and lie down to rest. After that, he flicked his sleeves and left. Yi Daoling looked at Fang Yin and said, Fang Yin, we misunderstood you. As you said just now, you have your position and we also have our position. The Yi family's face needs to be maintained, and the Yi family's ancestral hall needs to be guarded. Some unpleasant things happened in the middle. Don't take it to heart. After all, you didn't suffer a loss. Instead, it was my side that suffered a big loss in your hands, right? Fang Yin looked at Yi Daoling and said, Third uncle, I know. It's not easy for us and it's not easy for you. I won't take these things to heart. That's good. Yi Daoling laughed and said, However, I also want to thank you for saving our family's Ro. She is the lifeblood of our family. We don't want her to be in any danger. I thank you on behalf of the Yi family. When Yi Daoling spoke, he bowed deeply to Fang Yin. The younger generation of the Yi family looked at each other and also bowed to Fang Yin. Fang Yin didn't dare to accept it. When he wanted to get up from the bed, his wrist was weak and he almost fell to the ground. Yi Fengxing's hands and feet were nimble. He used his big belly to push Fang Yin back. He looked at Yi Daoling and said, Third uncle, Fang Yin was seriously injured just now. His body is very weak. How about we let him have a good rest? Yi Daoling nodded and said, That's right. Fang Yin should rest well here. There's no need to rush home. I'll personally go to the Fang family in a while and explain it to your family. Fang Yin nodded and said, Okay, thank you, third uncle. Yi Daoling walked to Yi Ro and said a few words to comfort her. Don't feel bad, relax, and there will be opportunities in the future. Then he turned around and left. Yi Fengxing patted Fang Yan's shoulder and said, I knew you would be fine. Fang Yan looked at his chubby face and said gratefully, Thank you. He knew that Yi Fengxing had been speaking up for him and protecting his position. It wasn't easy to do this kind of thing in his own home. It wasn't easy for Yi Fengxing either. Everyone had their own difficulties. Yi Fengxing laughed and said, When did you become so wishy-washy? The Fang Huahua I know isn't such a person. He looked at his cousins who were guarding the room and refused to leave. He pushed their shoulders and said, "Let's go. We didn't sleep last night. Let's go back and sleep. We're so sleepy." There were still some people who wanted to say something, but they were stopped by Yi Fengxing's fat palm. When Yi Fengxing helped close the door, he winked at Fang Yan who was lying on the bed. Fang Yan smiled bitterly. This guy was really a good brother. Bang. The wooden door of the room was closed. Only Fang Yan and Yi Ro were left in the room. The young couple hadn't seen each other for months. When they met again, it was such a dangerous moment. Now that the crisis was over, the two of them could be described as surviving a disaster. There were some indescribable feelings in their hearts. Fang Yan looked at Yi Ro, and Yi Ro looked back at Fang Yan. The two of them looked at each other. Endless words were exchanged through their eyes. They didn't even need to speak. "I've been thinking." Fang Yan lowered his head and said, "If I die like this, although you'll miss me, I'll more or less feel indignant. For a smart person like me, why would I give up my life for a woman whom I've only held hands with a few times? Isn't that too much of a loss?" "Yes, it's too much of a loss." Yi Ro nodded. She walked towards Fang Yan step by step. Her body was weak, so even when she walked she was a little unsteady. This time she had really lost a lot of energy. Yi Ro stood at the head of the bed and stood in front of Fang Yan. She said softly, "Look up." "What?" Fang Yan looked up and asked. Yi Ro bowed slightly and pressed her soft lips against Fang Yan's. Chapter 671. The girl's lips were soft and cool, as if he was eating a mint-flavored cotton candy. This was not the first time that Fang Yan and Yi Ro had intimate contact, but the previous contact could only be called lip-rubbing. This was their first real kiss. Yi Ro not only pressed her lips on Fang Yan's, but also put her tongue into Fang Yan's mouth. Oh, this was a French kiss. Fang Yan didn't know why it was called a French kiss when people put their tongues into each other's mouth and stirred. He didn't even know what kind of French kiss was, such as Wuxia's, British's, Korean's, Japanese's, or African's. He didn't have much experience in this. However, Yi Ro's movements were also jerky. She put her tongue into Fang Yan's mouth, and it was as stiff as a frozen snail. The snail crawled and squirmed with difficulty, but it always accidentally scratched Fang Yan's teeth. Fang Yan didn't feel any pain. He just felt sorry for Yi Ro. He was worried that his teeth might cut her tongue. Because his mouth was blocked by Yi Ro, Fang Yan could only signal Yi Ro with his eyes. He turned his eyes to the left to remind Yi Ro that she could also turn her tongue to the left. He turned his eyes to the right to remind Yi Ro to turn her tongue to the right as well. His eyes were the guiding light, and all Yi Ro needed to do was wave her tongue and follow his instructions. However, this idiot didn't understand what Fang Yan was saying at all. Because of her shyness, she closed her eyes tightly. Because of her nervousness, her body trembled slightly. Her legs, which were weak to begin with, became unstable. It was as if she would fall into Fang Yan's arms if she was not careful. Yi Ro really wanted to express her enthusiasm. Maybe it was because of her love for Fang Yan. She was doing this very seriously, but she wasn't good at it. Serious children were worthy of encouragement. Therefore, even though Fang Yan carefully avoided her, afraid that his teeth would hurt her tongue, even though Fang Yan was nervous and worried that her body would not be able to take it and she would accidentally fall to the ground. However, Fang Yan still didn't stop him. Everyone had a learning process and no one was born with it. For example, when he first started practicing martial arts, he couldn't even stand properly in the simplest stance, let alone a difficult skill like kissing. Thump. Yi Ro had just woken up, and her physical strength was exhausted. Finally, she could not hold on any longer and fell forward. Fang Yan immediately reached out his arms and held Yi Ro in his arms. The warm and fragrant body entered his embrace, and their bodies collided firmly together. At this time, Yi Ro didn't have the toughness of a martial arts master, nor did she have the arrogance and coldness of her usual temperament. She was like a little woman who hadn't recovered from a serious injury, lying in the arms of her man happily. That place made her feel safe. Sense of security? Yi Ro chewed on this familiar yet strange word in her heart. In the past, she never felt that it was dangerous. She just felt that there was no challenge in life. Say, this word should be used on others. She had never felt this way before. Fang Yan held Yi Ro tightly in his arms and whispered, "Before I woke up, I had a dream. What did you dream about?" Yi Ro asked aloud. "A bad dream. Bad dreams must be told," Yi Ro said. "My mom said that bad dreams won't come true after they are told. Did your mom say that?" Fang Yan laughed. This Yi Ro was so cute, just like a naive little girl. Of course, she was originally a little girl. It was just that her talent in martial arts was so outstanding that people always forgot her age and gender. Because she was so powerful, no one had ever thought of protecting her. Yes. Yi-Ro pressed her head in Fang Yan's arms and nodded gently. Her forehead rested on Fang Yan's chest, which made Fang Yan feel a burst of itch. Okay. Fang Yan thought for a while and said, actually, I don't remember it very clearly. I just feel that my head was in a mess at that time, and images kept flashing in my head. In the dream, Bai Xiu didn't die. He was still alive and even more powerful than before. He said that he also liked you and challenged me. We had a fight and I defeated him again. But I don't know what happened, but you left with him. I was very angry and shouted at you, Yi-Ro, you are my girlfriend. How can you like someone else? You told me that liking is liking and there was no no, or no. Later there was a longer story. I met Bai Xiu again, I killed him and you stabbed me. I think this dream is ridiculous. It is ridiculous. Yi-Ro nodded seriously. I don't like Bai Xiu. I didn't like him before. Fang Yan opened his mouth and laughed. Yi-Ro really didn't like Bai Xiu. In order to pursue the phoenix, and also to take revenge on Yi-Ro for beating him up again, Fang Yan had deliberately used Bai Xiu's name to write an extremely mushy love letter to Yi-Ro. Yi-Ro had actually run over to Bai Xiu and beat him up. At that time, I knew that the love letter was written by you, Yi-Ro said in a low voice. You knew? Fang Yan was surprised and said, if you knew it was written by me, why did you go to Bai Xiu to settle the score? Because I don't like him, Yi-Ro said. This kind of answer is really capricious. Although I know it's not Bai Xiu's fault, since I don't like him, I have a reason to beat him up, so I went to beat him up. I don't like that kind of joke, Yi-Ro said. I didn't like it at that time. Fang Yan nodded and said, it won't happen in the future. I heard what you said. What? What you said just now, the things you told my father and third uncle. Fang Yan smiled and said, it's good that you heard it so you can be mentally prepared in advance. Yi-Ro nodded and said, you said you wanted to coax and drug him. Fang Yan's heart was in his throat. He forgot that he had said such a stupid thing. He explained anxiously and said, I just said it casually. You're so smart, how could I deceive you? If you drugged him? Yi-Ro's voice didn't sound very real because her head was buried in Fang Yan's arms. Tell me in advance and I'll pretend not to see it. Fang family. Old man Fang Huwei carried the birdcage to the backyard early in the morning. The backyard was sunny and the air was fresher. Opening the back door next to the small courtyard where Mo Chingi used to live, he could see the scenery on both sides of Shihizi River. There were village women washing clothes and vegetables by the river, urchins running and playing by the river, and old men playing chess and fishing by the river. Because they were in the middle of a battle, they didn't have time to care for the fish that bit the bait. Fang Huwei thought that he should take his old friend out for a stroll on such a good day, but the eagle's silence made him worried. Old friend. Fang Huwei had never given the eagle a name, so he always called it by that name. Ever since it came to the Fang family, it had become a part of the family. Today is another good day. The eagle looked at him with lifeless eyes. Its body was getting weaker and weaker. Look at you, you're such a stupid bird. Other birds are catching insects in the sky and fish in the river, but you? Other than standing here all day, you can't do anything. You don't even know how to say a word. The Vajra eagle still didn't speak, no longer teasing him like before. Fang Huwei sighed and said, you've also got the temper of the Fang family, stubborn? A voice came from the front. Fang Huwei tilted his head to listen and then said to the Vajra eagle in front of him, old buddy, they should be here soon. I hope that kid didn't suffer in the Yi family. The eagle naturally didn't respond. Steady footsteps came over. Yi Daoling stood beside Fang Huwei with a smile and said, old man, are you walking your bird again? I'm old, talking to people will be disliked. So when I have nothing to do, I talk to it. It doesn't dislike me and I don't dislike it either. Instead, we live in harmony. Fang Huwei said with a serious face. Yi Daoling said with a face full of guilt, old man, don't be angry. Last night, everything happened so suddenly. Big brother and I were a little rash. We invited you over to discuss a solution to the problem. At that time, Big brother was worried about Wenwan's safety, so his words were not pleasant to hear. Old man, don't lower yourself to our level. I came here this time to apologize to you, old man. Fang Huwei turned to look at Yi Daoling and asked, did you figure it out? Yes. Yi Daoling nodded. Fang Yen really broke into the Yi family's gate to help Wenwan. It happened suddenly and we didn't quite understand his behavior. That's why there was a series of misunderstandings. You know it, but I don't. Fang Huwei sneered and said, "My grandson was worried about Wenwan's safety. He didn't even give me the time to explain and ran to your Yi family. What's the result? How did your Yi family treat my Fang family? How did your Yi family treat Fang Yan? What does my grandson owe your Yi family? If you think about it carefully, it's your Yi family that owes my grandson more. Darling, our Fang family is small. We can't let others bully us, right?" Chapter 672. A family was equivalent to a fruit tree, and the members of the family were the fruits of the tree. Most of the fruits on the fruit tree of the family were the type with ordinary aptitude. They were not pleasing to the eye and hated to taste. This was also the reason why ordinary people or ordinary families occupied the majority of the world. This was the foundation of society, the base of the pyramid. A few of the fruit trees of the family would have one or two geniuses with above-average aptitude. They could not lead the whole family to charge forward, and they were far ahead of the other children of the family, neighbors, and friends. Therefore, these people were the object of envy. Some lucky clans would have several big and sweet fruits on their fruit trees. Like the Yi clan, where the three tigers advanced side by side, the three tigers took the lead to attack the city and pillage the stronghold, while the other clan's disciples waved flags and shouted war cries to support the attack. This kind of clan was extremely rare. Once they appeared, they could become the best in their field. For example, the families on the wealth list every year, they jointly controlled billions of funds through blood ties. The Fang family had a strange talent. All the people of Swallow Dock said so. The Fang clan was not a top-notch clan in Swallow Dock. Not to mention a colossal clan like the Yi clan, the Fang clan was slightly inferior to the Ruan clan where Ruan Chen was from, the Zhu clan where Zhu Ziden was from, and the Li clan where Li Xiaotian and Li Long were from. The biggest reason for this situation was that the Fang clan did not have many descendants, and they did not have many sons. Old man Fang Huwei had at least one brother. When it came to the generation of Fang Yan's father, Fang Yixing, there were only one boy and 3 girls. The 3 aunts had married off, and Fang Yixing had died in battle. The backbone of the Fang family at the entrance of Swallow Dock was suddenly wiped out. This was also why the heavy responsibility of revitalizing the Fang family fell on the shoulders of a young man like Fang Yan. He was the same age as Yi Fengxing, Li Xiaotian, and the others, but he had already shouldered the responsibility of Yi Daoling and Yi Daowen's generation. Wasn't it natural for him to work harder than others? Old Master Fang Huwei was a martial arts prodigy. Fang clan's Tai Chi Kung Fu, which was famous for its gentleness, was modified by him. He infused it with a strong and forceful force, turning it from a strong body into an invincible killing technique. Even Mo Qingdi and Fang Yan were deeply influenced by this Kung Fu. Fang Huwei was already famous at a young age, and the people he associated with were the best in the inner river. Later, he was chosen by a leader within the Red Wall and became the emperor's personal guard. Fang Huwei's legs were paralyzed in the prime of his life and he became half a cripple. On the other hand, Fang Huwei's only son, Fang Yixing, was not proficient in martial arts, but was rather interested in calligraphy and painting. The Fang family sank to the bottom of the valley. However, the Fang family had produced someone like Mo Qingdi. Strictly speaking, Mo Qingdi could not even be considered as a true member of the Fang clan. He was merely a disciple that Fang Huwei had taken in from the outside when he was young. However, as he practiced, he was able to comprehend the Tao through martial arts and became one of the 3 dragons of Wuxia, the Azure Dragon. Not only the entire Swallow Dock, but even the entire pugilistic world in Wuxia had a whole new level of respect for the Fang clan. Don't underestimate the enemy. When they were at their peak, who would dare to speak harshly to the Fang clan? At that time, the Fang family was in the limelight. Even the 3 tigers of the Yi clan, who were shining brightly now, were suppressed by Mo Qingdi to the point that they could barely breathe. There was no chance for them to stand out at all. Misfortune never came alone. When Mo Qingdi was at his peak, he accepted the challenge of the dragon god and his tendons were cut off by the dragon god. Just when everyone looked down on the Fang clan again, some people sighed and some people were gloating. Fang Yan stood up. Fang Yan comprehended the heart of Tai Chi in his 20s. No one dared to look down on the Fang clan, but there was no way to pay too much attention to the Fang clan. It was like the fruits of a fruit tree. Most of them were thin and ugly, but there was a chance that one of them would mutate and become the most dazzling one in the entire forest. Fang Huwei was like that in the past, Mo Qingdi was like that later, and Fang Yan was like that now. Yi Daoling lived in Yanjing most of the time, and there was a huge gap in age and seniority. There was little contact between the two. However, he didn't dare to have the slightest contempt for this old man. Not to mention his identity as the emperor's guard, he shamelessly ran to the Yi clan to challenge them. In the end, Yi Rou forced his precious grandson, Fang Yan, to use the heart of Tai Chi. Just take this investment as an example, he was also extremely foresight, right? Not to mention the current emotional entanglement between the two young people, which caused so much trouble for the Yi clan. Hearing Fang Huwei say, "Dowling, our Fang clan is weak and we can't let others bully us, right?" Yi Dowling knew that this old man was ready to bully others. The Fang clan had this kind of ability. Even when they were in a weak position, they could always bully others as they wished. For example, himself. Yi Dowling looked at Fang Huwei and said with a smile, "Old man, what happened last night was something that no one wanted to see. We have some misunderstandings towards Fang Yan, and we owe him something." "You're right, your Fang clan doesn't owe anyone anything. My position was taken by Fang Yan for me. I don't know what to do to thank Fang Yan, but if there's something I can do, I naturally won't refuse." Fang Huwei nodded with a smile and said with a straight face, "The Yi family is capable and the Yi family is also moral. Everyone is well aware of this. We don't need you to do anything special for our Fang family. Although the Fang clan is weak, we still have a bowl of rice to eat. I just hope that when the Fang clan is being bullied, the Yi clan can stand on the side of fairness and speak up for our Fang clan. This isn't difficult, right?" Yi Dowling smiled bitterly and said, "Old man, this is indeed difficult." "What? Dowling is unwilling?" Fang Huwei looked at Yi Dowling and asked. "I know it's not easy." Yi Dowling put away the smile on his face and said, "But our Yi clan is duty-bound." Fang Huwei reached out to pat Yi Dowling's arm, but thinking of his current position, he raised his hand in the air and didn't put it down. Yi Dowling smiled and squatted down. He said, "Old man, come, I'll push you out for a walk. I haven't chatted with you for a long time." How can one have so much time to gossip with others when one is in an official career? Fang Huwei said with a smile, "Caring for the people of the country is 100 times better than caring for an old man like me. Dowling, I appreciate your kindness. No need, go and do your work. I know you have a lot of things to do." Yi Dowling pondered for a moment and said, "Old man, then you sit here and bask in the sun. I'll go back and make some preparations." "Go." Fang Huwei nodded and said, "It's time to make some preparations." Fang Yan was seriously injured. At least that's what he told others. Fang Yan felt that his body was empty. No matter how hard he tried, he couldn't muster any strength. He felt that he had lost all his martial arts and became a trash who could no longer practice martial arts. That's what he told the Yi clan. Yi Fengxing stood at the head of Fang Yan's bed, his eyes sweeping over Fang Yan's face and body. It was like a brilliant policeman was examining a suspect he had caught. "Haha," Yi Fengxing laughed. Fang Yan looked up at Yi Fengxing and said, "I'm already injured like this, what's so funny? You really lost your strength?" Yi Fengxing asked. "Really?" Fang Yan nodded seriously. "Stop it." Yi Fengxing said with a smile. "You just don't want to go back? You just want to stay in our Yi clan? You just want to see my sister a few more times? Is there a need to make yourself look so pitiful?" "I'm telling the truth," Fang Yan said seriously. The smile on Yi Fengxing's face disappeared. He looked at Fang Yan seriously again and said, "You're not joking with me, are you? Do you think I'm joking with you? You really don't have any martial arts left?" Fang Yan sighed softly and said, "I've lost it temporarily. I don't know what will happen in the future. You won't look down on me, right?" Yi Fengxing was stunned for a moment and said anxiously, "Why would I? We're brothers. Whether you know martial arts or not, we're all brothers. Ruan Qian's martial arts aren't good, but we've never looked down on him. You have to leave quickly, you can't stay in Swallow Dock any longer. Otherwise, when Sir Shin unleashes his power, it'll be very dangerous for you to stay here. You can't go back to Flower City either, it's also very dangerous there. We'll go to North Sea where there aren't many people. It won't be easy for them to find us. Zidan is there, I'll go with you. If anything happens, us brothers can take care of each other. Call Lil, Tian, Ruan Qian and the rest to go with us. When we're free we can catch birds and hunt for rabbits as an ambush from 10 sides, Fang Yan added. Yi Fengxing threw a punch at Fang Yan's face and scolded, "Fang Huohua, you idiot. You're joking about something like this?" Fang Yan tilted his head to dodge Yi Fengxing's attack and explained, "I was hoping that you could cooperate with me. With your personality, if I told you that I'm fine, wouldn't you show all your emotions on your face? Everyone in your family is smart. They only need to take a look at you to know what kind of situation I'm in. If I didn't act more seriously, they would have already chased me out of the house, right?" Yi Fengxing thought about it and accepted Fang Yan's reason. He said, "My sister's body is weak now, she won't be able to leave the house for a while. It'll be good for you to stay with her. However, you don't have to go to Sir's place for the time being, right?" Fang Yan was silent for a long time, then said in a low voice, "The beauty cave is the best place to wear down a man's willpower. After seeing gentleness, I suddenly lose interest in everything. Because I see things that are too beautiful, I hope that those ugly things that people don't want to accept will come later, or even never have to face them. However, I still have to face them in the end." Chapter 673. What are you trying to say? Yi Fengxing asked in confusion. "If you want to stay with my sister, you can keep pretending to be dead. If you say that you haven't recovered, the Yi family will take responsibility for you. If you don't bring it up, the Yi family won't drive you out. If you really lose your kung fu, the Yi family will have to give you an explanation. The Yi family won't bully others." "You're a rough man. You don't understand." Fang Yan sighed. "You appreciate the flowers and don't want to see the branches again. You experience the spring wind and summer rain and don't want to endure the heat and cold. You go through the whole spring and want to stay in the season where everything grows." When Fang Yan saw Yiro, he wanted to stay with her. He didn't want to deal with those things that made him tired and suffocated. He wanted to enjoy this kind of joy, which was as simple as a piece of chocolate and a little love song. Moreover, the joy in his heart was far greater than what he showed. Fang Yan really liked to stay with Yiro. He liked to see her smile and not smile. He liked to hear her speak or not speak. He liked her every word and every move. Fang Yan knew that he had fallen in love, but he didn't reject this feeling. He even enjoyed it as if it were malt syrup. Well, Fang Yan thought in his heart. He felt that this was the most beautiful word in the world. Yiro failed to conquer nature. At the critical moment of life and death, he risked his life to save her. He and Yiro went through the gates of hell together. Only after experiencing life and death could one understand the preciousness of life. Therefore, what Fang Yan wanted to do most now was to stay by Yiro's side quietly but restlessly. This feeling was much stronger and more intense than when he went to find the teacher to denounce him and force him to give him an explanation. Because he knew that if he met Mr. Yi, there might be another bloody storm. The situation that he would face in the end might be far beyond his expectation. Even he couldn't control what his future would be like. He didn't like the feeling of being out of control. Fang Yan was a lazy person and a pacifist. He really didn't want to experience so many disgusting things. "Sir, are you not like that in my heart, sir?" Yi Fengxing grinned and said, "I may not know as much as you about other things. But when it comes to picking up girls, you're far inferior to me." Fang Yan looked at him thoughtfully and said, "You can't be. You, a virgin, have the nerve to say that a home run winner like me is a boor?" Fang Yan narrowed his eyes and smiled, saying, "Is it the one from the Bailey family?" Yi Fengxing was shocked and asked, "How do you know?" "Good guess. But I clearly liked Xiao Lu in the past. You have also liked Xiao Hua, Xiao Tu, Zhang Xiaoman and Li Xiaoying. You have liked many girls." Yi Fengxing's face was full of embarrassment as he said, "I wasn't very sensible in the past. I think every girl has something lovely about her. For every girl you like, that girl doesn't like you. Xiao Zhu is an exception." Yi Fengxing said with a red face, "She is good to me and I am good to her too. You've picked up Bailey Lu's most beloved sister. Just wait for that madman Bailey Lu to come back from the Gobi Desert and settle the score with you." Yi Fengxing smiled bitterly and said, "When that time comes, you guys have to support me. Besides, Xiao Zhu and I are truly in love. We've already discussed it. When both our parents agree, we'll get married." Fang Yan nodded and said, "As long as you don't let her down, we'll definitely speak up for you. At worst, we'll just let Bailey Lu beat you up." "That won't do. My soft and tender skin can't withstand the ravages of a madman like him." "You didn't think about this when you were picking up her sister?" "I thought about it." "Then why are you still picking her up?" "How can you say that? You're too bold for your own good," Yi Fengxing said with a smile. "Besides, with you guys around, I'm not afraid of Bailey Lu. He's no match for you. You're really good at scheming," Fang Yan said with a sigh. "But I still can't beat you? If you were to lie here for 8 to 10 years, wouldn't the matter between you and my sister be set in stone? If you live in our Yi family, would they be able to recruit other men? Wouldn't they laugh at us?" Fang Yan sneered and said, "If I want to marry Ting Nuo, I'll do it openly. I'll use 8 sedan bearers and 100 Bentleys to send the bride to Yanjing City for 3 laps. Then I'll bring her back to our Fang family in Swallow Dock. Is there a need to use such dirty tricks?" Yi Fengxing nodded repeatedly and said, "That's right. That's how it should be done. Women all like to be ostentatious." Fang Yin waved at Yi Fengxing. Yi Fengxing put his big face over. "Go and tell Ting Nua that there's something wrong with my current situation." Fang Yin whispered in Yi Fengxing's ear. "Don't say that I told you. Just say that you found out when you came to see me. Say that I'm enduring the pain and don't want her to know." "Understood." Yi Fengxing nodded seriously and said, "I'll say that if she doesn't come to see you now, she'll never see you again." Fang Yin slapped Yi Fengxing. Yi Fengxing laughed out loud and dodged like a nimble rabbit. "Continue pretending to be dead. I'll go get someone for you." Yi Fengxing ran to the door and said to Fang Yin when he closed the door, "But my sister may be resting with the great ancestor. She may not be able to come over. Don't let the great ancestor know that I'm dying." Fang Yin warned. The great ancestor came. The great ancestor came with Yi Ro. The great ancestor stood at the head of the bed and looked at Fang Yin, who was lying on the bed with a weak body and an ashen face. She said to Yi Ro in her extremely hearty voice, "I thought this guy deliberately instigated the rumors to deceive us. Looking at his situation now, I'm afraid he really can't make it." Fang Yin wanted to beat Yi Fengxing to death. "No, I encouraged Bailey Lu to beat him to death. We agreed not to let the great ancestor know, but you've brought her here." Yi Ro looked at the embarrassed Fang Yin with great interest, and a seductive smile appeared at the corner of her mouth. "Little Yinzi, where do you feel uncomfortable?" The great ancestor looked at Fang Yin and asked. "Great ancestor." Fang Yin was about to cry. How could she call someone like that? Little Yinzi sounded like a character in The Princess Pearl. He didn't want to be a eunuch. He tried to squeeze out a smile and said, "I feel much better now. I feel much better when I see you. You are really the reincarnation of Guanyin Bodhisattva." "I won't die, will I?" "I won't die for the time being." "It's good that you won't die," the great ancestor said. "If you're really going to die, I can't say these words to you. Ro Ro is my favorite child. I don't want her to be a widow at such a young age. However, I know you are cunning and won't die easily. That's why I'm here to say these words to you. Do you like my Ro Ro?" Fang Yin looked at Yi Ro and quickly looked away. He said with some embarrassment, "Yes." "What do you mean?" "I'm asking if you like my Ro Ro?" "Yes." Fang Yin answered with infinite shyness. He lifted the blanket covering him up to cover half of his face. All right. Don't be shy. Little Yinzi, I've known you since you were born naked. You're not a shy guy." Fang Yin put away the shyness on his face and said seriously, "Don't they say that old people like honest and shy children? The problem is that you don't like either of them." The great ancestor said. "Since you like my Ro Ro, you must want to be with my Ro Ro, right?" "Yes." Fang Yin looked at Yi Ro firmly and said, "We have to be together." Yi Ro looked at Fang Yin with her bright and beautiful eyes. Even if she was shy, she was unwilling to turn her face away. "Then you should also know that it's not so easy. At least, these men in the Yi family are not willing to, right?" The great ancestor looked at Fang Yin and asked. "It's shameful to talk about it. There are so many men in the Yi family. There are dozens of them, but they have to rely on a girl to revitalize the family." "That's right." Fang Yin echoed. "How can it be like this? If they like masters of the heavenly path, they can work hard to climb up. Why do you need my girlfriend to support you?" The great ancestor looked at Fang Yin with a face full of contempt and said, "Don't you feel pain in your back? If you are also a master of the heavenly path and a hero, like underestimating enemy, even if those guys surnamed you don't agree, what can they do? If you steal your wife and run, will they chase after you and beat you up?" Fang Yin did not dare to speak rashly. "Whose side is this old lady on? I'm flattering you, okay? Little Yinzi, tell me, when can you climb up to the heavenly path?" "This great ancestor, I'm working hard," Fang Yin said. It was difficult for him to answer this question. Who knew when he could climb up to the heavenly path? The great ancestor nodded and said, "Although I'm old, I'm not muddle-headed. I'm not an unreasonable person. I know that the heavenly path is illusory. There are so many people in Swallow Dock who practice martial arts, but in the past 100 years, didn't underestimating enemy appear?" "Great ancestor, what do you mean?" "Don't meet, sir." The great ancestor's expression was solemn. Every wrinkle on his face seemed to hide a yellowing past. Chapter 674. "Don't see, sir," the elder ancestor said again. Her voice was a little softer. There were reminders, warnings, but mostly pleas. Because Fang Yen was the Fang Yen that Yiro liked, she also liked the Fang Yen that Yiro liked. Fang Yen wanted to see Sir and interrogate him. This was not a secret in the whole of Swallow Dock. In Fang Yan's mind, a life for a life, a debt for a life, was the highest and most important rule of conduct that humans should abide by. If the murderer didn't pay with his life, then there would be more people who would kill. If the debtor didn't pay, then no one would be willing to borrow money. Some people said that this society was so cold that even the closest friends couldn't borrow money. However, if you had the experience of borrowing money and not paying it back, then wouldn't you be harming your own friends? The people on the roadside wouldn't be willing to lend you a single cent. Everything had a cause, and good and evil would be rewarded. However, the elder ancestor of the Yi family said to Fang Yen with a serious face, "Don't see, sir." Because of his good relationship with Yi Fengxing and his bad relationship with Yi Ro, Fang Yen often went to the Yi family. Sometimes he went to play with Yi Fengxing, and sometimes he went to take revenge on Yi Ro. The more he went to the Yi family, the more he interacted with the elder ancestor of the Yi family. She was gentle, loving, generous, and candid, and even joked with Fang Yen from time to time. She often gave Fang Yen food and scolded him as a naughty monkey. Fang Yen liked the elder ancestor of the Yi family, just like how he liked his grandmother, who passed away a long time ago. In his memory, the elder ancestor had never spoken to him in such a serious tone. She had always been kind and cheerful, and treated him the same as other children. Maybe she liked him a little more. Fang Yan's face was solemn. He kept silent and didn't immediately answer the elder ancestor's question. Or rather, he responded to the elder ancestor's request because she said, "Don't see, sir." Not, "Don't see, Mister?" Seeing Fang Yan's expression, the great ancestor sighed softly and said, "Little Yen, I know this request is difficult for you. I also know that you have encountered some unfair treatment. In life, everyone has a hard life. But since it's not easy, why do you want to put yourself in an even more dangerous situation? Your grandfather was a smart man. I've lived for 100 years and I've rarely seen anyone smarter than him. He did everything he could for the Fang clan, and in order to protect you, his only child, he used up all of his energy. Back then he came to our Yi family to challenge us, saying that our Wen Nuo was not as good as his family's Fang Yen. Dao Wen and Dao Ling were not willing to accept the challenge. It was me who agreed to let you and Wen Nuo compete every year. I have also been a parent, so I can understand the difficulties of being a parent. Besides, having the two of you compete once a year will also have the effect of promoting each other. Do you think I didn't think of your results today? Do you think Dao Wen and Dao Ling didn't think about it before? It's just that I've spoken up so they can't refute me anymore. Everyone is looking forward to the Fang clan doing well. Your grandfather's leg is lame and your father has that kind of disaster. The most pitiful thing to do is to underestimate the enemy's family. If you underestimate the enemy, you won't get sick or suffer any disasters. Now it's still the same as before. Who dares to talk big to your Fang clan? Including those few young boys in our family. Who dares to shout and tie you up, Fang Yen? Who dares to shout and kill you, Fang Yen? Who dares to fetch your grandfather from home in the middle of the night to discuss the matter of punishing you? Of course, they also have the word, reason. In a situation where the truth is unknown, it's understandable for them to be angry. You can count with your fingers. Since the day Swallow Dock appeared, who dares to break into other people's door and break into other people's ancestral hall? No, there has never been such a thing. This is the first time you, Fang Yen, have encountered such a matter, and there are still people gossiping about it. Just this morning, Yi Dongxue went to find the Chen clan's eldest son to compare notes, and broke one of his arms and one of his legs. Only then did they stop. When there are external enemies, Swallow Dock is a whole entity. When there were no external enemies, Swallow Dock would once again fight among themselves, fighting incessantly among themselves. It's not just our village, the other villages are the same. But, Fang Yen, there is only one person who can unite all of Swallow Dock, and that is Teacher. You can see Teacher every day, but have you ever wondered why Teacher is Teacher? There are so many people in Swallow Dock and there are many old men and old women. Why can Long Chenxiang be Teacher? Fang Yen had asked this question before. The person he asked was the old drunkard Mo Qingdi. He said, "Old drunkard, why is Teacher Teacher Teacher? Why can't you be Teacher Teacher? When it comes to martial arts, you are the best in Swallow Dock." The old drunkard's answer was, "Teacher Teacher is the master of Swallow Dock and also my teacher. No matter how good a student is, he can't compare with a teacher." At that time it was just a joke. Fang Yen asked casually and the old drunkard answered casually. Then the two of them continued drinking. Fang Yen didn't even carefully consider the deeper meaning of the old drunkard's words. I've heard some things about you. Although I rarely pay attention to the trivial matters outside, Bai Xiu is dead, and the revenge that should be avenged has been taken. Let yourself rest for the time being, give yourself some time and make yourself stronger. Isn't this the right way? Why do you force yourself to live such a hard and tiring life? The great ancestor reached out to hold Yi Ro's little hand and said, I'm telling you this because I feel sorry for Yi Ro. I know how you feel about her and I also understand her character. She will definitely support what you want to do unconditionally. She won't say anything but she will do it with you. If you are safe, she will be safe. If you take risks, she will take risks with you. Fang Yin turned his eyes to Yi Ro, and Yi Ro looked at him with a silent smile. Grandmaster was right. She knew Yi Ro well. Yi Ro didn't talk much, but she liked to express her feelings with actions. If Fang Yin stood on the opposite side of Mr. Yi, she would stand on the opposite side of Mr. Yi without hesitation. In this way, the Yi family was in a difficult position. If the Yi family wanted to protect Yi Ro, they would have to follow Fang Yin. If the Yi family did not protect Yi Ro's life would be in danger. In some matters, it was better for these old people to take a longer view. Fang Yan's throat squirmed as he said in a deep voice, Ancestor, you're doing this for my sake, for Teng Wen's sake. I completely understand your thoughts. In all honesty, if it were just based on my own likes and dislikes, I wouldn't want to see Sir either. If it wasn't necessary, who would want to offend Sir from Swallow Dock? Who would want to go against an old guy who could raise a freak like Bai Xiu? But, can I not go see Sir? Impossible. Bai Xiu is Sir's disciple, and Bai Xiu killed my father. What is Sir's position in this matter? Does Sir know or not? Sir, are you irrelevant or involved? Why did Sir do this? Fang Yin deliberately suppressed the anger in his heart, but his voice was still murderous. Sir was the Sir he respected. His father was killed by the disciple of the person he respected. Who wouldn't be angry when encountering such a thing? I went to Sir to seek justice and also to uncover a mystery. If Sir is still the Sir in my heart, then he should tell me the facts and let me know the truth. If Sir is no longer the Sir in my heart, then even if I don't go to him, will Sir not take the initiative to find me? Instead of passively taking the blow, like Bai Xiu went to Huaqing to set up a fatal trap to deal with me, it's better for me to simply return to Swallow Dock, stand in front of Sir and make it clear to him. If he scolds me, I will scold him back. If he hits me, I will fight back. Even if I die, I will die in this Swallow Dock in front of thousands of Swallow Dock villagers. The ancestor sighed softly and said, I knew I couldn't persuade you. Fang Yin jumped up from the bed, bowed deeply to the ancestor and said, Ancestor, I have let you down this time. This was also an old man he respected, an elder who wholeheartedly hoped for the best for him. The ancestor waved his hand and said, Didn't you ask Feng Sheng to bring a message to Wenro? Let's have a good talk with her. The ancestor moved his little feet and turned to leave, leaving Fang Yin and Yi Ro in the room again. Fang Yin looked at Yi Ro and said, I know the ancestor is doing this for our own good. Yi Ro nodded lightly. But I can't promise her. I think it's better to settle this kind of thing earlier than later. Fang Yin explained seriously. Yi Ro still nodded and looked at Fang Yin with her watery eyes without blinking. She was calm and sure, but there was no shyness of a little girl. What do you think? Fang Yin said. What do you think? I don't think. Yi Ro said. Your thought is my thought. After thinking for a while, Fang Yin gritted his teeth and said, In this case, I'm going to see Mr. Yi when I feel better. Okay. Yi Ro looked at Fang Yin and said, I'll go with you. Don't go. Don't stop me. Don't always look at me like that. Fang Yin felt a little guilty under Yi Ro's gaze and said, I'm a little embarrassed. You are the man I like. Yi Ro's voice was like the tinkling of spring water, small but clear. Why can't I look at you more? Chapter 675. You are the man I like. Why can't I look at you more? If this sentence came out of Fang Yan's mouth, it wouldn't be surprising at all. However, when this sentence came out of Yi Ro's mouth, Fang Yin felt ecstatic and flattered. Nowadays, everyone was used to men confessing to women. It would be rare and sincere for a woman to confess to a man occasionally, especially for a woman like Yi Ro. What did you say? Fang Yin resisted the palpitation in his heart and asked aloud. Yi Ro just looked at him and giggled without answering. Fang Yin walked forward and held Yi Ro in his arms, saying with a smile, I was laughed at by Yi Fengxing just now. He said that he may not be as good as me in other things, but in terms of love I, a virgin, am not qualified to criticize him. I don't even know how to fight back. Then don't fight back. Yi Rou said. You're so cute. I really want to do something inappropriate to you. Fang Yan said. After a pause he added, but I don't dare to. Yi Rou raised her head from Fang Yan's arms and stared at him with her sparkling eyes. She said, do you want to coax me with sweet words? What's done cannot be undone. Fang Yan was speechless and hurriedly explained, I just said it casually. This kind of thing is consensual. How can I cheat? I'm not the kind of man you think. Besides, I can't beat you. If you fight back, I can't do anything. It's also possible that I'll be molested by you. Actually, Yi Rou looked at Fang Yan's delicate cheeks and said, no one likes to eat raw rice. Everyone is willing to eat cooked rice. Fang Yan was stunned for a long time. He looked at Yi Rou and said, what do you mean? Guess? If I guess wrong, you won't beat me? Some things were inevitable, but there was no need to rush. Fang Yan made up his mind to see Mr. Yi, but he didn't immediately run to see Mr. Yi. At the very least, he wouldn't go until his body recovered. He didn't even return to the Fang clan. On one hand, he wanted to stay in the Yi family to accompany Yi Rou for a while. He didn't know what would happen to him, but he wouldn't leave Yi Rou before she recovered from her serious injury. Perhaps it was because he had risked his life to save her, or perhaps it was because of Yi Rou's good fortune that her failure to climb the Heaven's Way didn't bring her any severe sequelae. It was a great thing that he was alive and well, and that his head was clear and all his limbs whole. It was just that his body was a little weaker. It would probably take a long time for him to achieve such a breakthrough again. Yi Rou was still young and she would have plenty of opportunities in the future. Moreover, those who had experienced life and death situations would understand the meaning of living better. Living was the greatest meaning. As for what they could obtain while they were alive, it would depend on their own efforts and the blessings of the heavens. He couldn't force it. Fang Yan's situation was worse than Yi Rou's. He didn't notice it at the beginning, thinking that his body was empty because of the volcanic eruption, and he would be fine after a few days of rest. However, when Fang Yan consciously tried to use his heart of Tai Chi, he found that it didn't move anymore. Just like a few years ago, it became a lifeless, stillborn fetus. This made Fang Yan panic. He was even more panicked than he had been 3 years ago. At that time, Fang Yan felt that everything in the world was just a game. Some games were wonderful and exciting and some were more boring. If you failed or died, you would have a chance to be resurrected. Now, Fang Yan was besieged on all sides, surrounded by powerful enemies. He didn't want to lose even once and he couldn't afford to lose even once. Without the heart of Tai Chi, it was equivalent to losing an important safety barrier for Fang Yan. He was prepared to reason with the teacher, but if he couldn't reason with him, wouldn't the heart of Tai Chi revolve and the Tai Chi domain fully unfolded? Fang Yan was very happy these days. Every day he stayed with Yi Rou, said some very stupid things and did some very stupid things. Of course, this was when Yi Daowen didn't notice. If Yi Daowen was at home, their meeting would most likely be a little unpleasant. Yi Daoling had already returned to Yanjing to work. With the importance of his current work, it was impossible for him to skip work for a few days. Li Xiaotian has already been warned by his family. His family's old man asked him to leave Swallow Dock immediately, but Li Xiaotian refused. He didn't want to listen to his family's grumbling, so he simply stayed at Wan Qian's house. Wang Kaishuan's life isn't good either. I heard that he has already been scolded by his father, who is a commander, several times. They're worried that you won't feel good, so they didn't come over to talk to you about these things. Yi Fengxing sat by the window and spoke seriously while peeling oranges to eat. Fang Yan lay on the bed and trimmed his nails. His fingers were long and slender and the joints were fine. Many people said that they should be the hands to play the piano. However, he used them to practice martial arts and kill people. Of course, using these hands to kill people was also very good looking. They're afraid that I'll feel bad, but aren't you afraid that I'll feel bad? Fang Yan used a nail clipper to cut off a nail and said unhappily, even if you don't feel bad, my heart will feel bad. Yi Fengxing said with a chuckle. Look at what kind of life you're living in our Yi family. You forcibly occupied my room, soaked up my cousin, and even if I gave you food and clothes, you wouldn't change. Fang Yan sighed lightly and said, I've already said that this is my own matter. Today's situation, wasn't it already predicted long ago? We've also said long ago that your matter is our matter. Yi Fengxing said with a chuckle, there's no need to refuse. Some things are more precious because they're difficult. If we were to steal a chicken to beat a dog, would we need to come all the way back from Yanjing? What about in the future? Who cares about the future? Yi Fengxing sneered. Only those who can settle the matter in front of them properly have the right to talk about the future. Fang Yin looked at Yi Fengxing in shock and said, I realize that you're not just fat. It's very philosophical, isn't it? Yi Fengxing said proudly. Suddenly those words came out of his mouth. After saying them, even he himself was shocked. Did such logical words really come out of Yi Fengxing's mouth? And stupid. Fang Yin said. Your family has lived here for generations. You don't need to think about the future, and your family doesn't need to think about it either. Let's go. Yi Fengxing stuffed the remaining half of the orange into his mouth. As he chewed until his mouth was full of sweet and sour juice, he threw the orange peel at Fang Yan's face and said, Here you go. After saying that, he pushed the chair away and left. Fang Yan looked at his back and smiled bitterly. I really don't want to drag my brothers into this. Fang Yan originally wanted to make preparations before going to see Mr. Yi, but he didn't expect to see Mr. Yi unprepared. These 2 days Yi Ro's body was slightly better. Her face wasn't as pale as before and her steps were more stable. After Yi Fengxing asked around, he found out that Yi Daowen had gone out to visit a friend. So, Fang Yin asked Yi Ro to go to the stone river in the back of the mountain. Ever since Yi Ro failed to pass the trial, they had been holed up in the courtyard of the Yi clan. They didn't even step out of the Yi clan's gate. Although the Yi clan didn't stop him from seeing Yi Ro, being watched by countless people in the Yi clan made him feel a little restricted. The weather was clear and the wind was gentle. It was a good day for making love, flirting and making love. Fang Yin and Yi Ro walked side by side on the path beside the stone river. It was already the end of autumn and winter was peeking out. Steam rose from the surface of the stone river, and occasionally white stripes jumped out of the water. The leaves were yellow but the weeds on the ground were still growing lush. Fang Yin didn't pay attention to his surroundings. He focused all his attention on Yi Ro. He gathered his courage and held Yi Ro's little hand. After waiting for a long time she didn't beat him up. He finally relaxed and whispered something to her. Yi Ro suddenly stopped. Because they were holding hands, when Yi Ro stopped, Fang Yin also stopped. Fang Yin raised his head and saw an old man walking toward him. It was an old man in a gray robe. He was hunched and walked slowly with a basket of dung. Seeing animal dung on the roadside, he stopped and shoveled the dung powder into the basket with the rake in his hand. His movements were very slow, and his expression was very solemn. It seemed that for him, shoveling dung was the most important thing in the world. After shoveling a pile of dung on the roadside, the old man picked up the basket again and walked toward Fang Yin. He raised his head and saw Fang Yin and Yi Ro, who had stopped moving forward. Yi Ro held Fang Yan's hand tightly. Fang Yin shook her hand back and told her that he was fine. Before they got close, they could smell the stench of animal dung. The teacher stood in front of Fang Yin and Yi Ro with the basket of dung in his hand. He looked at Yi Ro lovingly and said in a blaming tone, Girl, why are you in such a hurry to break through at such a young age? Only by working steadily and laying a solid foundation can you be afraid that you can't peep into the way of heaven one day. The way of heaven is dark and far away, and ghosts and gods are obscure. You can't force it and you can't force it. Do you remember? Yi Ro bowed and thanked the teacher for his teaching. Chapter 676. Thank you, sir, Yi Ro said with a clear voice and a respectful look. Sir was the village head of Swallow Dock and the most respected old man. He was highly respected and had many followers including Fang Yin, who was also a fan of Sir. Sir blamed and reprimanded Yi Ro for her sudden breakthrough, which was a matter of course in everyone's eyes. Not only would you not be annoyed by it, but you would also feel deeply honored to be cared for. At least that was what Yi Ro thought. Yi Ro knew that Fang Yin and Sir had a grudge against each other. Before the truth was revealed, the two parties were in a state of hostility. If Fang Yin and Sir had a conflict, she would choose to stand on Fang Yan's side without hesitation. If Fang Yin advanced, so did she. If Fang Yin fought, so did she. However, the person standing in front of her was Sir, the teacher of everyone in Swallow Dock. It had been a habit for a long time. What Sir says is right. What Sir wants to do is right. It is good for me that Sir cares about me. It is also good for me that Sir scolds me. All the people in Swallow Dock were proud to be taught or reprimanded by Sir. After decades of operation, Sir didn't deliberately do anything. Just like seeds would eventually sprout and tadpoles would eventually become frogs, Sir had become the oldest and most solid monument in Swallow Dock. Yi Ro didn't like Sir because Sir's disciple Bai Xiu killed Fang Yan's father. Yi Ro had to respect Sir, just like all the people in Swallow Dock had to respect Sir. That was a habit. It's a blessing and a tragedy for the Yi family to have you. Sir sighed and said, you have such a talent, but you were born in a little girl. I'm afraid the Yi family won't let you go easily, right? Yi Wenru didn't expect that her husband would talk about this topic with her. She blushed and her ears turned red, but she didn't show it on her face. She said indifferently, who knows what will happen in the future? Yes, who can say for sure what will happen in the future? The teacher grinned. His smile was kind and amiable, like an old man collecting dung in a village who was pleased and full of praise when he saw a promising young man. The boat will cross the bridge when it comes to it, you don't have to think too much. You failed the trial but there were no repercussions. This meant that even the heavens were kind to you. Rest well. After accumulating strength, I'll once again pry into the heavenly Tao. Yes, sir, Yuan thanked him again. The teacher's gaze finally shifted to Fang Yan's face. It was not abrupt, nor was it strange. It was so natural. The smile on his face when he was facing Yi Ro was still there, so when he saw Fang Yan, there was still a smile on his face. However, the smile did not disappear immediately. Instead, it seemed to be spreading. Mr. Skin was pitch black, like the tree bark that could be seen everywhere by the stone river, or the already withered lumps of sheep dung. Because his skin was too dark, the wrinkles on his face didn't seem deep. His eyes were cloudy and crisscrossing red blood vessels could be seen in the whites of his eyes. It gave people a sense of familiarity, but also made it difficult for people to get close to it. You're back. Mr. looked at Fang Yan and said. It was a normal greeting, just like how Fang Yan used to greet him countless times when he came back from outside. At that time he might wear a gray robe and wander around the village. Most of the time he would carry a dung basket and collect dung like today. The people of Swallow Dock raised countless pigs, cows and sheep, and most of them were in a free-range state. However, it was rare to see animals' feces, urine and other excreta inside or outside the village. It was because Swallow Dock had a sunset glow poop shoveling brigade headed by Mr., who had been doing the cleaning work in silence. When Fang Yan heard this question he was extremely unwilling to accept it. He came back this time to see Mr. When he was in Huaqing, he had already started to conceive and plan all kinds of bloody battles when he returned and confronted Mr. What kind of face would Mr. put on, and how he should respond politely? What would Mr.'s first sentence say? He had to give a perfect answer and at the same time make the outside world think that he was a little persecuted man. For this reason Li Xiaotian, Yi Fengxing, and the others returned from Yanjing one by one to gather at Swallow Dock in order to show off their power. They did not give in even when they were threatened or even beaten by the elders of their families, just so that they could stand up at the critical moment and stand together with Fang Yan with passion and passion. They had already planned for so long and put in so much effort, but was this his attitude? You should be angry, you should be furious, you should be shouting, you could hit people with a dung shovel? Or you could display the dignity and domineering aura of a superior, and then use the schemes and tricks you have cultivated for decades to ask me some sharp but deep questions. How could you do nothing? Did he break the stalemate between the two of them with just a simple, I'm back? I'm back, Fang Yan replied in a muffled voice. Because Mr. didn't play his cards according to common sense, he couldn't play the cards he had prepared. Mr. nodded and said, I heard from them that you were back a few days ago, and I thought you would go to find me right after. I haven't been to school these days and I've been making big leaf tea several times a day, but I haven't seen you at all. What does that mean? Don't take it for granted. Fang Yan thought angrily. Fang Yan looked at Fang Yan and said, Do you want me to go, mister? Of course I want you to go, Mr. said. The later you go, the worse my character is in your eyes. The teacher looked around and said, Winter is coming. Before the heavy snow seals the mountain, the animals on the mountain will be more active. After picking up the dung in the afternoon, my throat is so thirsty that it's smoking. Mr. looked at Yi Ro and said, Ro, go back first. If you go back late, your family will be worried that they have been tricked by this guy to do bad things. As if he knew that Yi Ro would agree, he turned his eyes to Fang Yan again after saying that and said, Come with me. Let's have a private talk. Yi Ro looked at Fang Yan and Fang Yan nodded to her. Yi Ro still looked at Fang Yan and Fang Yan said with a bitter smile, Go back. Yi Ro nodded and said, I'll go back first. Yi Ro turned around and left, walking towards the village of Swallow Dock. Mr. also carried the dung basket and walked towards Swallow Dock, and Fang Yan followed him step by step. When they arrived at Mr.'s hut, Mr. poured the dung in the basket into the cesspool. The village was so backward that they didn't even use biogas. So after the dung fermented on its own, it was picked up by manpower, carried to the wheat field or the rape field and sprinkled. Mr. threw the dung basket in the corner outside the courtyard, went to the yard to get a bucket of water to wash his hands and face, and then pushed open the wooden door, took the big enamel jar on the table and gulped down a big mouthful of water. Then he seemed to think of Fang Yen again and said, "Do you want to drink tea?" Fang Yen refused and said, "I've been taking tonic recently, and I'm afraid that the medicine has been neutralized. It's not convenient for me to drink tea." Mr. didn't insist and said, "It's said that you make good tea. Even Dao Ling, who has enjoyed a good life in the city, praises your tea skills. I've never had a chance to taste it." Fang Yen didn't respond. If he didn't solve the knot in his heart, he might not be able to make a pot of good tea for Mr. in his life. Mr. stood at the door with a tea jar in his hand, and Fang Yen stood outside in a white robe. There was only a doorsill between them. The light in the thatched cottage was dim, and Mr.'s face was hidden in this gloomy atmosphere. The sun was shining brightly outside and Fang Yen, who was dressed in a white robe, looked handsome, like the golden sunlight in the sky, dazzling people's eyes. "You came too late." Mr. looked at Fang Yen and said. Fang Yen nodded and said, "Maybe it's too early. I always feel that I'm not ready, and I want to spend more time with the people close to me. After all, I don't have any relatives by my side. You've always been a good child who values friendship and righteousness." Mr. praised. "What you said is something that everyone should care about. In this world there's nothing more important than this." Fang Yan's lips curled into a mocking smile and he said, "If you said that in the past I would be proud for a long time. Even Mr. praised me, which proves that I must be such an outstanding person. And now I feel that it's a great irony to me." Fang Yan said. "You want me to come earlier? I want you to come earlier. You said that the later I come, the worse your character is in my heart." Fang Yan's eyes became sharp, and he stared coldly at Mr. standing in front of him and said, "Are you so confident in your character?" Mr. picked up the tea jar and drank a mouthful of tea and said, "There's hostility in your heart." "That's murderous intent," Fang Yan said. 3 years ago it was hostility, and after 3 years of digestion, it has long become murderous intent. "You don't want to kill me," Mr. said. "If you wanted to kill someone you would have thought of a way to kill him." Mr. looked at Fang Yan and said, "Conspiring, ambushing, poisoning or any other method. These are all things that you, Fang Yan, can do." Chapter 677. "However, you chose to meet me, Fang Yan, in the most primitive and foolish way, just like the other children. I've watched you grow up, so you shouldn't have any objections to what I'm saying, right? It's not just you, I've also watched your father, Fang Yixing, grow up from a naughty kid in open crotch pants to a tall young man, and then become a husband and a father. You're not a person who likes to play cards according to common sense. For a person like you to suddenly play cards according to common sense, it proves that you're afraid of Fang Yan. You treat meeting me as a matter of life and death? Do you think I'll slap you to death in front of countless villagers? Fang Yan, what do you take me for? And what do you take Swallow Doc for?" Sir's tone was very casual and his expression was very calm. Sir did not show any anger or resentment, and he did not exude his domineering aura. Even his words were very simple and straightforward, and he would definitely not confuse or confuse you. Sir's words made you feel like an old farmer was talking to you, but every sentence and every word made Fang Yan feel very pressured. The reason why we fear a person is not because of what he says, but because of what kind of person he is. What kind of person was Sir? What kind of person is Sir? Fang Yan asked the biggest question in his heart. Sir held a large enamel jar and narrowed his eyes as he sized up Fang Yan, who was standing in the divine light. The young boy in the past had become handsome and elegant. In terms of temperament and demeanor, Fang Yan could be said to be the most handsome young man in Swallow Dock. Of course, the original most handsome young man by Xiao had been killed by Fang Yan. The greatest evil in life was to be an obstacle. If Bai Xiao had looked like Yi Fengxing, he would still be living comfortably, right? If he didn't act so pretentiously. Sir looked at Fang Yan and asked softly, "In your heart, what kind of person is Sir?" "Sir, I just want an answer," Fang Yan said. "Like you, I also want an answer." Mr. stubbornly looked at Fang Yan and said, "What kind of person are you, mister?" "I don't know." Fang Yan gritted his teeth. "This answer doesn't match your style at all." The teacher shook his head and sighed. "Fang Yan, ever since I've known you, have you ever said anything that you're afraid of? Is there anyone you don't dare to see? If there is." Fang Yan's smile was full of grief and indignation. Only you can do that, sir. Only the person who loves me can hurt me the most, and being stabbed by the person I respect the most is even crueler. Swallow Dock was a special place, and it was also a place that people could be proud of. And sir was Swallow Dock, sir, the pillar and totem in the hearts of countless people. For example, when Fang Yan brought Yi Fengxing and Li Xiaotian to confront Jiang Junling at the Maple Leaf Club in Yanjing, he knew that if the situation was irreversible, Sir would definitely come out, and he really wanted to force Sir to come out. In the end, under the situation of being pressured from both inside and outside, Sir did come out, and he even used the red machine that he had been locked in an iron box. At that time, everyone thought that Fang Yan was in a weak position, but in fact they had never thought that the real strong person was actually Fang Yan, and that Jiang Junling was the weak one. That night, it seemed that Fang Yan and his companions were the ones who were rejected and attacked by the crowd, but even if hundreds of people attacked together, what could they do to them? They couldn't win in an argument and they couldn't win in a fight. What advantage did they have? Loss of reputation? Losing face? Come on, Fang Yan was originally an insignificant person at that time. What face did he have? What reputation did he have to lose? The one who truly lost face was Jiang Junling, and the one who truly lost his reputation was also Jiang Junling. Some people said that a person's opponent determined their height. Fang Yan's opponent was Jiang Junling, so everyone put him and Jiang Junling on the same level. Have you considered Jiang Junling's feelings? It was just like how some small celebrities who had just made their debut had to rely on Lu Dehua or Xia Chen to create hype, saying that they wanted to surpass Lu Dehua and that they wanted to soak up Xia Chen. Have you considered the feelings of Lu Dehua and Xia Chen? That was a marketing campaign, a self-marketing campaign for Fang Yan's position. It was also a scheme to force the Jiang family to give up their position. If it wasn't for some people realizing the seriousness of the problem, Yi Daoling would be sitting in the position of the Jiang family, and with the Jiang family sitting in this position, Fang Yan's days would be even worse. What kind of person was Fang Yan? Things had only started to take shape, but he had already completed the entire plan and guided it. Yi Fengxing, Li Xiaotian, Ruan Qian, and the others who stood behind him, some of them understood at the time, and some of them only understood afterwards. No matter what, they were willing to advance and retreat together with Fang Yan. Otherwise, with Fang Yan's personality, he would definitely turn around and run when he realized that he was about to suffer a loss. A music addict can't eat. Who would be willing to bear the siege of hundreds of people for a woman? The one who set up the stage was Fang Yan, and the one who acted was also Fang Yan. However, the final director was Mr. Fang Yan, who was far away in Swallow Dock. The reason why Fang Yan dared to cause such a huge disaster and dared to ignore the enmity of the Jiang family and all of the wealthy families in Beijing was also because he had Swallow Dock and Mr. However, could the current Mr. still support him? Could he trust him like a totem engraved on his soul? Mr. was silent for a long time, then said, Fang Yan, I heard that you broke through again in Huaqing and comprehended the Tai Chi light that is rarely seen in 100 years? That is also thanks to Mr.'s good disciple, Bai Xiu. Most of this is due to his efforts. Fang Yan said with a face full of sarcasm, if he and Jiang Junling hadn't worked together to set up that sure-kill trap, if he hadn't used the thunderclap sword to attract the lightning, if he hadn't forced me into desperate straits with that old man Song Zaniang time and time again, if it hadn't been for him, how could I have had the chance to break through again? Actually, Fang Yan was lying. The reason why he comprehended the Tai Chi light was mainly because he was forced by the Blade Monarch's chopping wood blade. When he comprehended the Tai Chi light, Bai Xiu had not yet appeared, and neither had the phoenix. Thinking of the phoenix, Fang Yan's heart bled. These bastards, why did they have to drag those innocent people into this? Thinking of the phoenix heartbroken because of this and how she cut off her mortal roots to escape to Buddhism, Fang Yan's heart was filled with anger. The phoenix hated. She hated how fate played tricks on her. Fang Yan also hated. He hated how those conspirators had ruthlessly manipulated their fates. Bai Xiu, Jiang Junling, the infamily, and perhaps even Mr. were all sinners. Mr. was finally angry. Fang Yan rarely saw Mr. angry. Even if a student in the academy did something terribly wrong, he would just keep a straight face and slap them. But at this moment, Mr. frowned. His eyebrows furrowed so deeply that his thick eyebrows turned into curved black silkworms. Mr. stared at Fang Yan with a burning gaze. His eyes, which had always been dispirited and depressed, flashed with a frightening brilliance. He said in a low voice, "You just want an answer, right?" "Yes," Fang Yan said. "I also need to ask Mr. to give justice to my dead father." Otherwise, the dead will not be able to rest in peace, and the living will not be able to rest in peace. Fine. I will give you justice. Mr. said. He held the jar in one hand and raised the other, fiercely chopping toward Fang Yan's face. Palm as a sword. Thunderclap sword. After leaving Mr.'s sight, Yi Ro's footsteps became hurried. She didn't return to her Yi family because she knew Yi Fengxing wasn't home. She walked along the stone river all the way to the Huan family at the entrance of the village. Sure enough, before she got close, she heard the laughter of young people inside. Yi Ro appeared at the entrance of the courtyard and saw Li Xiaotian and Ruan Qian wrestling. The others were holding a wine pot, lying down or sitting, and were still fiercely discussing who would win and who would lose. I'm betting on Xiaotian. Xiaotian's Kung Fu foundation is not bad, although he has put on a little weight after becoming a businessman. If it was before, I would definitely bet on Xiaotian, but now I'm betting on Ruan Qian. Ruan Qian is always by Uncle Ye's side. With Uncle Ye's strict attitude toward the people around him, it would be hard for him not to risk his life. Look at Uncle Donghai. I didn't think much of his Kung Fu before, but after following third uncle for a few years, he has become a first-class expert. The last time my dad saw him, he said his Kung Fu had reached a higher level. Yi Fengxing's eyes were sharp. When he saw Yi Ro standing at the door, he quickly jumped up to greet her and said, "Sister, why are you here? Didn't you go to the Stone River with Fang Huohuo for a walk?" The others also stood up. Wang Kaixin looked at Yi Ro with a smile and said, "Originally they wanted to follow and peep, but I forcefully stopped them. I say they're a couple talking about love, so why are you people going over to join in the fun?" If it was before, Wang Kaixin and Li Xiaotian wouldn't dare to speak to Yi Ro in such a tone. Because according to Yi Ro's character, they were likely to be beaten black and blue by Yi Ro before they could finish a joke. It wasn't that Yi Ro's character had changed, it was mainly that Yi Ro's identity had changed. Now Yi Ro was his brother's woman. If he made a joke with his brother's woman, wouldn't it mean that everyone was close and liked her? Sure enough, Yi Ro didn't hit them this time. Yi Ro looked at Yi Fengxing and said, "Fang Yin went to see Sir." *CK. Yi Fengxing threw the wine bottle in his hand out, smashing it on the wall and breaking it. He cursed, "This bastard son of a bitch, we agreed to go together. How can he be so untrustworthy?" Chapter 678. This bastard son of a bitch, we agreed to go together. How can he not keep his word? This time Yi Fengxing, Wang Kaixin and the others were really angry. They had clearly agreed to go see teacher together, so why did he quietly run off alone? This kind of behavior was much more serious than saying that they would grow old together, but you secretly went to bake oil. Exactly. What kind of logic is that? Wang Kaixin was so angry that he stomped his feet and cursed. "Fang Yin, that be asterisk starred, pushing us once is what he should do. Pushing us twice is due to our friendship. Pushing us 3 or 4 times means that he doesn't treat us as brothers. We have treated him with sincerity. What does he mean by doing this?" Yi Ro frowned slightly. She didn't like it when others scolded Fang Yin. No matter what the reason was, he didn't like her. Don't get excited. Let's listen to what Gentle has to say. Qin Yanqing was experienced and prudent. She stood out and said that to smooth things over. "You still don't understand what happened? Why are you all cursing and swearing?" Li Xiaotian and Ruan Qian also let go of each other. They stopped wrestling and gathered around to listen to Yi Ro. Yi Ro nodded to Qin Yanqing to express her gratitude and said, "Fang Yin and I met Mr. Yi when we were walking by Shihizi. Mr. Yi asked me to come back and ask Fang Yin to go back with him." "You can't be thinking of silencing me, right?" Yi Fengxing asked with a pale face. "Let's *CK this thing up." Li Xiaotian was rather agitated. He rushed to the corner of the wall and took out a broadsword. Although the Li family was good at using fists, it was not a problem to have a broadsword to defend themselves. It also looked more threatening. As for whether the teacher would buy it or not, that would be another matter. Qin Yanqing looked at Yi Ro and said, "Ro, you haven't recovered yet. You better go back and rest. Rest assured, as long as we're still alive, we won't let Fang Yin suffer any losses." "Yes. I don't believe that Mr. can single-handedly wipe out all of us." Ruan Jing roared, his face red. It was quite interesting for a delicate and gentle man to shout such hot-blooded words. Yi Ro refused and said, "I'll go with you." "Sis, your body?" Yi Fengxing tried to persuade her further. "I won't do anything. I'll just watch from the side," Yi Wen said. "Watching is also a form of strength. If there were more witnesses, you wouldn't have gone too far with Fang Yin." I understand. Yi Fengxing nodded. Let's go find Sir. Let's go see Fang Yen, Qin Yanqing said. Thus, the group of youngsters ran towards the entrance of Swallow's dock where the teacher lived. As they ran, they shouted loudly at the yards they passed. A life for a life, a debt must be paid back. Mr. wants to see Fang Yen. Mr. wants to see Fang Yen. Everyone come and take a look. Sir said that he will give justice to Fang Yen. As they ran, the gates of the courtyard were opened one after another. Some of the gates were open and people ran out of the courtyard. More gates were closed at an even faster speed. It was better not to get involved in some things. When they ran to the Fang family's house, Yi Fengxing turned a corner, trotted through the hall and ran to the backyard. He shouted to Fang Huwei, who was sitting in the yard drinking tea, Grandpa, Fang Yen went to see Sir. Sir wants Fang Yen to see him. Where's the thing you prepared? Fang Huwei was stunned for a moment, then he laughed and said, in the second drawer of the mahogany cabinet in my room. You can use it. Yi Fengxing rushed into Fang Huwei's room and rummaged through it. Soon he came out with something. He shook his fat butt and ran outside saying, Grandpa, you don't have to come here. We're here. His voice faded away and before he finished speaking, he had already disappeared. Fang Huwei sat in the yard in silence for a long time. He said to the King Kong eagle, who was looking around curiously, it's a little late, but it still came out. Sir. He sighed and turned his wheelchair in circles in the yard. Fang Yen had never fought with Sir. Fang Yen had never even seen Sir in action. However, Fang Yen knew that Sir must be an expert. How could Sir, who could cultivate an expert like Bai Xiu, be mediocre? Fang Yen and Bai Xiu had fought before, and Bai Xiu's swordsmanship had reached the highest level of profound meaning. Fang Yen had only heard from the elders of Swallow Dock that Sir was an expert in swordsmanship, and that his thunderclap sword was impenetrable. However, Sir had also said to the elders in the village that Bai Xiu was an expert in swordsmanship, and that he was superior to him. Then, whether the master was stronger than the disciple, or the disciple had surpassed the master, was unknown. However, it was conceivable that the master and disciple were both masters of swordsmanship. Sir didn't use a sword, but his hand was the sword. The sword swung out, plain and indifferent. There was no rolling energy, no thunder or lightning. It was as if he wasn't using the thunderclap sword, but the soul-vanishing saber. However, Fang Yen knew that Sir was using the thunderclap sword. The true profound meaning of the thunderclap sword lay in silent thunder. Bai Xiu's sword swung out, thunder rose, the momentum was huge and the sword chi was overbearing. Bai Xiu gained the upper hand with a show of strength, but he also lost because he exposed too much. Sir's sword was plain and simple. You didn't know where you would be shocked and you didn't know where the thunder was. However, you knew that the thunder would definitely detonate. Just like the last move that Fang Yen used in the battle with Bai Xiu. Hidden thunder, sword not shocking thunder but person shocking thunder. The most exquisite part was that it was hidden and ready to strike at any moment. That was the sword that Bai Xiu used with all his strength, and it was also his last life-saving move. In Bai Xiu's view, that sword could be his trump card. Of course, that sword really caused great trouble for Fang Yen. Fang Yen caught the lightning in the air and was almost blown to pieces by it. However, Sir used his palm as a sword and casually used such a move. This big liar. Fang Yen thought in grief and indignation. He even said, Bai Xiu is better at the sword than me. In order to make his disciple proud, he went against his conscience and said such irresponsible words. If he had known that Sir was so powerful, Fang Yen would have pretended to be dead when he met Sir just now. Or he would have sent his girlfriend home first, then hid in the Yi residence and not come out until his body recovered or the Taiji heart appeared again. With Fang Yan's current state, it would be very difficult to take this sword. However, with Fang Yan's current state of mind, he would take this sword even if he died. Things had already come to this and he couldn't take even half a step back. Fang Yan's footwork came from the self-created drunken crane riding the wind, a genius of a generation, the old drunkard Mo Qingdi. Fang Yan's body became blurred, and under the sunlight appeared 1 Fang Yen, 2 Fang Yen, 3 Fang Yen and countless Fang Yen. With the naked eye, it was densely packed with Fang Yen. Fang Yen thought that since he couldn't beat him, he would use a superior body movement to avoid this killer move, waste some time, and then find a chance to turn the tables. Just like when he dueled with the Tao addict, Song Zhanxing. As long as he didn't die, as long as he was alive, he would definitely find a chance to fight back. Fang Huohuo was good at this. Fang Yan's speed was at the extreme. He felt that he had turned into a bolt of lightning. Boom. He felt his chest tighten, and then his body rose into the air and flew backward. When he was still flying in the air, he spat out a mouthful of blood. It was just like the 72 transformations of Sun Wukong. With a single somersault cloud, he could travel 108,000 li. No matter how he flew, he still couldn't escape from Buddha Rulai's grasp. Fang Yen was Sun Wukong and Mr. was Buddha Rulai. Fang Yen still couldn't dodge. Clang. Fang Yan's body fell heavily on the hard stone ground, and then rolled backward. Bang. Fang Yan's body slammed heavily against the wall of the courtyard, and only then did he manage to stop with difficulty. He propped up his body with both hands, wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, and looked at Teacher, who stood still inside the door with a face full of surprise. Too strong. Teacher was too strong. Because of the moving mountain, Fang Yan's body still couldn't recover, and the heart of Tai Chi was in a dead fetus state. However, this didn't mean that Fang Yan didn't have any fighting ability. Without the heart of Tai Chi, Fang Yan was still a first-class master in Swallow Dock. Even if he fought with someone like Yi Daoling, he wouldn't let the other party gain any advantage. However, when facing Teacher, he didn't have any power to fight back. Teacher slashed out with his sword, and Fang Yan used all his means but still couldn't escape. This wasn't just a gap in strength, but a gap in realm. Teacher was still standing inside the door, still standing in the shadow of the hut. Fang Yan was lying outside the hut, lying under the warm sunlight. His clothes were dyed red with blood, and the corners of his mouth were stained with blood, making him look a little embarrassed. Fang Yan looked at Teacher in disbelief and said, "Why is it like this? Why is the gap so big? Fang Yan, don't you understand?" Teacher looked at Fang Yan and said. One of his hands was still holding the enamel jar, and there was still half a jar of big leaf tea in it. During the course of their battle, not a single drop of tea spilled out. "I don't understand," Fang Yan said. He didn't understand, nor did he want to understand. He was the young genius of Swallow Dock, the target of countless praises. He had worked so hard, breaking through again and again. He had just comprehended the light of Tai Chi, although he could not use the heart of Tai Chi in this battle. He who had lost the heart of Tai Chi was so vulnerable? "Realm," Teacher said. "Realm." Fang Yan had an ominous feeling. He stared coldly at Teacher and asked, "Is Teacher at the Heavenly Tao realm?" Chapter 679. What was the Heavenly Tao realm? Such a state was difficult to describe with words. It could only be explained with examples. Black Dragon, one of the Wuxia 3 dragons, was at the Heavenly Tao realm. Divine Dragon, one of the Wuxia 3 dragons, was at the Heavenly Tao realm. At his peak, Mo Qingdi was also at the Heavenly Tao realm. In a place like Swallow Dock where experts gathered, Mo Qingdi had suppressed all the elites of Swallow Dock to the point of suffocation after he reached the Heavenly Tao realm. And he was known as the #1 martial artist in Swallow Dock for 100 years. He was the most talented and heaven-defying existence. That also meant that Swallow Dock, which specialized in martial arts, had only produced Mo Qingdi in 100 years. He was the only Heavenly Tao realm expert. But even so, it was enough to make the people of Swallow Dock feel that it was an impressive matter. From this, it could be seen how rare Heavenly Tao realm experts were. They were gods and warriors, but they were far removed from the pugilistic world. Have you ever seen a divine dragon compete with other martial artists for supremacy? Have you ever seen Black Dragon appear in the mortal world? Have you ever seen Mo Qingdi be considered a Heavenly Tao realm expert who was closer to the people? Of course, that was a lifestyle he began after his tendons were maimed by Divine Dragon. Back when he was still a Heavenly Tao realm expert, he was best at roaming the world alone with a sword. He would rid the world of injustice and challenge all the experts in the world, such as challenging the Japanese 36 islands. Even now, Japanese warriors would gnash their teeth at the mention of Mo Qingdi, treating it as a great humiliation. However, no one had ever told Fang Yan that Mr. was a Heavenly Tao realm expert. His grandfather, Fang Huwei, had never said it. His senior brother, Old Drunkard, had never said it. No one in Swallow Dock had said it. If Mr. wasn't a Heavenly Tao realm expert, then what was the difference in realm between them? If Mr. was a Heavenly Tao realm expert, how could such a shocking matter be hidden from everyone? How could it be hidden from Mo Qingdi's eyes? Mr. is at the Heavenly Tao realm? Only the heavens knew what Fang Yan was feeling when he asked this question. He felt aggrieved as though he had kicked a metal plate, but more of it was a sense of helplessness. If Mr. was at the Heavenly Tao realm, what was the point of his return other than inviting humiliation? The answer he wanted, the so-called truth, would probably be drowned by Mr.'s might? Heavenly Tao realm? The gentleman's face revealed a ruminative expression as he said with uncertainty, I'm not at the heavenly Tao realm. No. Fang Yin felt relieved. In the past, Fang Yin felt that the stronger Mr. was the better. It would be best if he was the strongest in the universe. Even if Ultraman or Transformers came, they wouldn't be able to defeat him. Right now he didn't want Mr. to be too strong. If Mr. was too strong to the point of being a heavenly Tao realm expert, he would never be able to avenge his father's death, right? No. The teacher seemed to have finally figured it out. His attitude became firm as he said, I had one foot in it but I found it boring so I pulled it back. Fang Yan's heart suddenly became sluggish, as if someone had used a heavy object to hit him. His face was also burning with pain. One of his feet had stepped in and then he pulled it back on his own. Did he think that the heavenly axiom was a zoo in a shopping mall? Fang Yin had yet to find the critical point for a breakthrough, nor did he know what it was like to climb the heavenly axiom. Old Drunkard had never discussed such topics with him. Instead, from Yi Gentle's description, the heavenly axiom was a state of mind after accumulating strength. The heavenly axiom was a process of breaking through oneself, as well as a process of finding oneself. Of course, most importantly, the heavenly axiom was a process of forgetting oneself and wholeheartedly serving the Tao. A pure land, a smile, a mortal fate. A thought, a tranquility, a lotus blooming in the heart. Let there be nothing else in your world except the heavenly axiom. Yi Gentle's shackles were due to her deep feelings, so it affected her advancement into the heavenly axiom. However, because she couldn't bear to sever her ties with Fang Yin, not only did she fail the challenge, she even suffered a backlash from the heavenly axiom. She was possessed by a mental demon, and was nearly burned to death by the volcano in her body. Because Fang Yin had risked his life to save her, Yi Gentle had escaped the calamity. Even so, her body was still weak and it was difficult for her to move. This was the truth of the heavenly axiom, and this was the power of the heavenly axiom. How powerful was Mr. to be able to move freely within the heavenly axiom and leave at any time? If someone else had said this to me, I would have thought they were crazy. Fang Yin wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and said aloud. But coming from Mr.'s mouth, I believe it. Mr. smiled indifferently and said, Little brat, you have confidence in me on this point. But this won't do. Mr. said. I still want justice. Fang Yin held onto the wall with one hand and climbed up from the ground. Mr. frowned and looked at Fang Yin and said, What if I don't give you an answer today? Then I'll stand here. Fang Yin said in a deep voice, I'll stand here and be beaten to death by you. Is there a meaning? Mr.'s frown deepened and even his face became serious. It was as if, in his opinion, Fang Yan's choice was an extremely stupid thing to do. There's a meaning, Fang Yin said with incomparable firmness. I can't kill you, I can't get the answer, but I can tarnish you. I'll tarnish you with my death. Tarnish your reputation, tarnish your credibility, tarnish your image, tarnish the totem of Swallow Dock. Every time people mention you, they will think of you killing a talented young man. For the sake of your murderous disciple, you killed another student of Swallow Dock. Your image will collapse, your credibility will be ruined, and your authority will be questioned. Whether people say it out loud or not, everyone will think that you're a murderer in their hearts. This is your revenge. Mr.'s face was so gloomy that water could almost be squeezed out of it. He said, This is your revenge against the enemy who killed your father? This is the way you, Fang Yin, handle things when you're in a crisis? Fang Yin, you usually boast that you're a rare smart person, but your performance today is simply disappointing. Such a Fang Yin, I might as well kill you with my sword. Fang Yin walked towards Mr. step by step and said with a smile, What can I do? What can I do? You're Mr., the person I respected the most apart from my grandfather, the person I thought was the strongest apart from the old drunkard. When I was very young, I called you Mr. I wanted you to be my master. When I grew up, I wanted to go to school and become a teacher. I wanted to inherit your legacy. Although none of my wishes came true, you're still the Mr. in my heart. I thought to myself, all the teachers in the world should be like you. Later on, when I went to Huaqing and became a teacher by chance, it was also because I was subconsciously influenced by you. I thought that since I couldn't be Swallow Dock's Mr., it would be good to be the teacher of other children. In the end, there would be some resemblance to you. There would always be some areas where I would look up to you. Look, you have such a place in my heart. How could I use such a method to deal with you? You're right. I'm a person who doesn't like to play by the rules. I can use crafty plots against you, I can ambush you, poison you, or any other method. I have 10,000 ways to take revenge. But that person is you, Mr. from Swallow Dock. That's why I'm not willing to do that. The general dismounts the horse, the prime minister alights the palanquin. Ever since I was young, my grandfather said this to me. Although I didn't quite understand what it meant, I subconsciously felt proud of these words. Swallow Dock has its pride to protect, and Mr. has his reputation to protect. I'm a member of Swallow Dock and I'm proud of this collective. I don't want to be an exception to this collective, and I don't want to be its disgrace. That's why I came back openly and I stand in front of you openly. Mr.'s brows finally relaxed. His eyes looked thoughtfully at Fang Yen, who was walking towards him step by step. Mr. Please give me an answer. Fang Yen stood at the door, stood in front of Mr. and said aloud. Mr. stood outside the door and he and Mr. were only separated by a doorsill. Mr., please give me an answer. Fang Yen pleaded. Bai Xiu, why did he kill my father? Mr. held the enamel jar in one hand, and his other hand turned into a sword again. Thunderclap sword. Stop. A coarse voice roared. You old man, stop. The man's angry voice rang out. Even in his angry state, he didn't dare to curse in front of Mr. From this, it could be seen how deep Mr.'s prestige was. Mr., what are you doing? Let's talk this out. Qin Yanqing said with a smile. As a civil servant in the ministry, he had practiced not to get angry easily during his work. As they spoke, a group of young people ran in front of Fang Yen, using their fat or thin bodies to block in front of Mr. Yi Fengxing, Li Xiaotian, Qin Yanqing, Wang Kaixian, Ruan Qian, except for Zhu Ziden, who was far away in the North Sea, Swallow Dock's number 1 male heavenly group, Hua Meinan, were all here, blocking in front of Fang Yen. Yi Ro rushed over and saw the blood on Fang Yan's face, the dust on his back and the dent in the wall. Her expression was cold, but she didn't say anything. She only walked to Fang Yan's side, stretched out her small hand and held Fang Yan's blood-stained hand. Fang Yen wanted to break free, but she held on tightly. When Fang Yen exerted force, she also exerted force. She used her small action to express to Fang Yen that wherever he was, she would be there. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.